Welcome back, everyone, to more Higurashi When They Cry. So today we're going to try to, I think we'll be able to, be a bit longer episode, but I think we're going to be able to finish the first, chapter of the series, Onikakushi-hen. I think we'll be able to finish that today. So be prepared for a longer video. It's lots of reading. I got my water ready to go. Let's dive right in. This was the first time I'd ever woke with such clarity. It was 5:59, just moments before my alarm would go off. I was amazed at the precision of my internal clock. It's always such a cool thing when you wake up a minute before your alarm goes off. It's awesome. I had made preparations for the next day of school before I went to bed. I changed quickly and descended to the deserted lower floor. It appeared that my mom was still asleep. Neither breakfast nor lunch was ready. Yesterday, I just unilaterally declared that I would be leaving early today, so it couldn't be helped. I slathered jam on some bread and topped it with instant cocoa. Just as I was finishing up breakfast, Mom rose groggily from her slumber. Bread and instant cocoa with jam? I don't know how I feel about that. Depends what kind of jam it is. My, Keiichi, you're up early. Is there some sort of school event? Not really. Answering bluntly, I picked up my bag and stood after stuffing 2 slices of bread down my throat. Breakfast of champions. You're leaving already? What about lunch? If you don't wait a bit, I can't make it. If I waited for her to make my lunch, then it would end up being the same time as usual. If I did that, it would raise the chances of me running into Rena and Mion on the way. Yes, from today onwards, I was going to go to school alone. I'll be fine for today. Then what will you do for lunch? I'll slip out and buy some bread or something at the store. Really? Then here's some lunch money. Be sure to bring back the receipt. Being on top of it, I took the 1,000 yen bill from Mom and slipped it in my pocket. It's pretty early. Is Rena-chan up this early as well? Nope, just me. Did you tell Rena-chan that you're leaving early? I have no reason to tell her every little detail now, do I? Finding it difficult answering the onslaught of questions, I made an annoyed face. Tell Rena that I went ahead when she comes. Hey, Keiichi, wait. It's not that I didn't trust my parents. I just couldn't rely on them. Man, Keiichi's just kind of pushing everybody away right now. They couldn't help me. I can only hope that they didn't get involved. It was safer that way. My mom's annoying voice was cut off by the slam of the door. For the first time since I moved here, I headed down the road to school alone. That's just sad, man. Up until now, I'd always walked down the same path at the same time each day. So I always met with the same people at the same places. But today was different. I didn't meet the people I would normally, and nobody was at the places where I would have normally met them. Of course, Rena wasn't in the spot where we usually met, and there wasn't anyone at the spot where we would have met up with me on. The length of the tree shadows, the morning air, and the brightness of the sun, it was a completely different type of morning from what I was used to. Without a doubt, it felt strange. It left me with the impression that I had destroyed the illusion Hinamizawa had set up for me before it had enough time to prepare all of the props needed to deceive me. My, Keiichi-kun, you're so early today. Is everyone meeting early this morning? The person who called out to me was someone we always passed by as they were talking along, or taking a walk along the edge of the fields. Their name was, I forgot. Of course, this wasn't the spot where we usually pass each other. I woke up early today, so I thought it would be a good change of pace. That's all. I threw out a random excuse. What about Rena-chan and Mia-chan? Are you by yourself today? Well, yeah. I was being asked the same type of questions my mom was asking, so I answered them in the same uninteresting, vague manner. Aw, water. It wasn't funny being asked where Rena was each time I passed by someone. Well, you guys were together every single day. But maybe it was to be expected. Exactly. It was because for so long we were always together so amicably. Even I felt that if I let my guard down, we could still be Stop it, Keiichi. Don't think about that anymore. You spent all day yesterday thinking about how dangerous it was to go soft, didn't you? My dude is, beep beep beep. A car horn blared from out of nowhere. Even though I was walking, lost in thought, that horn was way too close. A mechanical behemoth barreled at me from behind, catching me completely off guard. By the time I turned around, the van's hulking chassis was almost on top of me. I'd seen plenty of cars veer to the opposite shoulder to avoid pedestrians, but this car was doing the opposite. It felt like there was somebody on the opposite shoulder and the van was swerving in my direction to avoid them. That blissfully ignorant train of thought delayed me from realizing something much, much more important. That large mass was hurtling right at me. Was it going to hit me? The inside of my head instantly flooded with a painfully cold liquid. In that moment, the scene before me, no, time itself, had frozen. Ooh, In the silence of that frozen moment, I compared the van, so close I had no way to dodge it, and my body, that perhaps twisted awkwardly in order to look behind me. There was no way I could dive out of the way in my current position. If I lost focus now, this moment would unpause, and I would probably be plowed over, caught in this silly pose. I bent my upper body towards the patio by the side of the road. If I bent far enough, I'd get away with just being hit by a side view mirror. As soon as the thought crossed my mind, the temporal stasis was shattered by a deafening sound of the van. The side mirror struck my shoulder, sending me spinning off through the air like a top, locked in my contorted position. Kasplash! Oof. Not cool, man. Sent tumbling through the air, I crashed into the muddy patty by the side of the road. My entire body was soiled and drenched. But the choice I had made in that instant was unmistakably for the best. I was covered in mud, but when the alternative was being hit by the car, it was the closest I could be to being unscathed. Rising out from the patty, I had enough in me to glare over at the stopped van and yell profanities at the driver. Not sure if he was able to see me, but the van sped off suddenly. Wait, damn it. This was what they call a hit and run, wasn't it? I couldn't help but continue yelling out profanities. That's right, curse out that car. The disgrace from being covered in mud hurt me more than any physical wounds. I slogged through the muddy patty and made my way back onto the road. This is a crime, goddammit. Shit, I'll track you down and sue you. That's right, Keiichi, you get that money. Get that bag, bro. If I go looking for a van, I'm sure to find it in this little village. The path I was on had rice paddies on either side, and it had become so narrow that one car could barely fit through. It wasn't a place you could tear full speed down in a car, let alone pass by pedestrians. Not only was it a narrow road, but the car just now was closer to my side of the road than the other when it went past me. Even as I cursed, I was desperately trying to suppress the dark cloud roiling up within me. This wasn't just a hit and run. That car just now was trying to run me over, wasn't it? Thinking back, I did feel like there had been a car creeping up on me slowly for a while. That's right, as soon as I parted ways with that person taking a walk, I had that feeling the whole time. If it had wanted to pass me, then I had no shortage of chances. Normally, I would have felt suspicious and turned around sooner. But I was lost in thought and now was kicking myself for not realizing I was there sooner. And then, when the path became narrow and there was no one else in sight, he floored it. If I had hesitated for even a moment, the result would have been no laughing matter. As the adrenaline rush from nearly being run over subsided, and the realization of just how terrifying the preceding events were sunk in. There was no doubt about it. That van was intentionally trying to hit me. A cold, vicious sweat seeped from my scalp and slid down my back before dribbling off. Dribbling. I don't know why that's funny. I struggled to avoid falling into a panic. There was still the possibility that this was really just an accident. There's still a chance there. There's a chance. Calm down, Keiichi. But also don't be so naive, Keiichi. Being that lax will get you killed next time. You need to always be on your toes. Don't give them any openings. If my enemy was really out to kill me, then next time they would use a more reliable method. That time came and I was acting like I was now. I being covered in mud was the price I had paid for my own naivete. Covered in mud, but without injury. Not even a sprain. Well, that's good. Being, bonked by the side view mirror, that can actually be painful depending how fast they're going. So good on him. He didn't get actually, hurt. I guess this is what we call the silver lining. There you go. I began walking again, this time cautiously. I wouldn't even show a hint of carelessness. I had suspected only Rena and the others up until now. No, it was because I had suspected them that I had believed that there were no other enemies. Oishi-san had said so, didn't he? There was the possibility that all the families of the village were involved. Was I really mired so deeply in the situation that I had no choice but to try and carry on as usual? Wouldn't it be safest just to hide myself up in my house? But the moment I abandoned my regular routine, everyone around me would abandon theirs as well. That was just too horrifying of a thought. I recalled the tales Oishi-san told me of when Hinamizawa was still called Onikakushi, a frightening tale of an entire village of demons hunting their prey, surrounding them and eating them alive. Sounds like fun. One must not interfere with the demons. One must pretend not to see it. The enemy were numerous, all the village families. The villagers, with their unwavering faith in the curse, would do nothing to help me. The strong, sudden flash of sunshine made me slightly dizzy. I had no idea what was going on anymore. When I suspected it was the work of man, I would catch a glimpse of Oishiro-sama's curse. And when I suspected it was Oishiro-sama's curse, someone would poke their head out. What was coincidence? What was intentional? Who was my enemy? Who was just a bystander? No, what I really truly wanted to know was, how did I end up with the proverbial bullseye painted on my back? Eventually, an answer in a form I could understand will appear. I don't care when that'll happen, because until then, I cannot die. That alone fueled my resolve to fight and will keep me alive. Heck yeah, Keiichi. Love that. Well, I don't love that you're being super paranoid about everybody in the village, but good that you're trying to stay alive. I remembered seeing the metal bat in the gym storage shed, but there was a padlock on the door barring my entry. At the very least, I wanted to get my hands on it before everyone else arrived at school. I circled around the school grounds impatiently. But all I could find were things like pieces of lumber, nothing that I could bring into the classroom easily. Then I had an epiphany. I should search inside the classroom. If it was something in the classroom to begin with, then there wouldn't be a problem. I could tell that everyone's indoor shoes were still in their lockers. Good thing I came early. Nobody else was here yet. Other than they have indoor shoes, like, is that a thing in Japan? We have to check that. That's pretty cool. Saves you, bringing dirt and grossness into the classroom, I guess. I wondered, what could I find in the classroom? I didn't think I could find an especially effective weapon like a bat, but it couldn't be helped at this point. Until the gym storage shed was open, I needed to find a substitute. A lingering hint of naivete whispered that there was no way I'd be attacked at school. But such soft ideas would no longer protect me. To think that they were slowly making their way into parts of my life that I had once thought impenetrable. In the worst case, my own house might not be safe anymore. That was an incredibly frightening thought, but I believe that not considering the worst case scenario would have been even more frightening. Anyways, I will survive. So long as I lived, then I will definitely be able to escape this labyrinth of nonsense. Definitely. My exploration of the classroom came to an impasse. That much was to be expected. There was no way there would be anything that could be a weapon in the classroom. In case of emergency, there was probably nothing I could do but swing my own chair around. My gaze landed on the lockers that had come to be used for personal storage. The locker that Mion used to store her pile of games was among them. There was one for each person in class, all lined up. Of course, there was one for me as well. Oh yeah, there was supposed to still be a tracksuit in my locker. Seeing me covered in mud would be strange. I should go change later. But first, I needed a weapon. If one of my classmates came, it'd be hard to rummage through all the lockers. I swiftly began opening lockers one by one. They were mostly just filled with things like gym clothes, personal items, and umbrellas. An umbrella? If I couldn't find anything better, then this would have to be my weapon. Oof. I was about to give up on finding anything decent when I opened a locker that held exactly what I wanted. It was, without a doubt, a metal bat. It was well worn and pretty beaten up, but there was no doubt it was usable. In that locker that reeked of mold, there also hung a baseball uniform. It was probably a locker of a student in a pee-wee league or something like that. If that was the case, then he probably asked for it back. At that time, I could hear the voices of the children scuffling their way noisily in from the hallway. Amongst them, I could make out Rika-chan and Satsuko. Ugh. Good morning. Look, they're so happy everything's fine. My, you're quite early this morning, Keiichi-san. I nonchalantly hid the bat I was holding behind my back. What's with your outfit? You're covered in mud. Yeah, I had a little incident. I'm going to change now, so cut me some slack. With that said, I began taking off my clothes. Satsuko began to blush just as I expected her to. Changing in front of a lady, have you no tact at all? I would think that a lady staring at someone who was changing would be the one lacking in tact. There's no changing room for the boys, so just deal with it. As Satsuko feigned disgust, she went into the hall, still blushing. Conversely, Rika-chan continued to stare at me, preparing to change. If Rika-chan is a lady as well, then I don't think it would be appropriate for you to be watching. I'm not a lady, so it's fine. She deliberately pouted and looked at me with upturned eyes. Then, starting now, you're a lady. If I'm a lady, then I suppose I must. Rika-chan, appearing to be satisfied with being considered a lady, made her way to join Satsuko in the hallway. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, Rika-chan stopped suddenly and turned back towards me. Are you going to start playing baseball? It seems that Rika-chan had noticed the bat. Yeah, just, I was feeling a bit out of shape, so I thought I'd just try practicing my swing. I think it's wonderful that you're taking care of your health. She was talking like an old lady, despite her appearance. After saying that, Rika-chan started to leave again, but stopped and looked back to me once more. Please don't lose that bat. It seems she already knew I took it out of someone's locker. There was no name on the locker door. I didn't know whose bat it was, but I would be borrowing it until they complained. It wouldn't be for long, just until the gym's storage shed was open. After quickly changing in a tracksuit, I checked the time. I still had plenty of time before class began because I came so early. I took the bat in one hand and went out to the schoolyard. That was, of course, to practice my swing. I needed to make it known I would always have a bat on me so I could practice my swing. At some point, the sunlight had become even stronger. Disregarding my classmates as they made their way to school, I took my position in the shadow of the school building. I wasn't the academic type, and I wasn't much of an athlete either. I might get muscle pain if I just suddenly started swinging. I should at least start out with some warm-ups. Yeah, you gotta stretch before you do any physical activity. Smart. I doubt anyone would think I was doing something out of the ordinary, which was the exact opposite of my actual mental state. I gripped the bat and swung lightly. The bat was by no means light. The weight would make it a reliable weapon when I needed it to be. Of course, I could only pray that the moment I needed to use this as a weapon would never come. Just carrying it around could deter attacks against me. At least that's what I hoped. Swingy, swing, 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 swing. Huh? Kei-chan, what are you doing? Being bombarded with such a hysterical voice, I jumped. Whoa, Keiichi-kun, are you on the baseball team? The baseball team? It was Rena and Mion. I was surprised to hear you went off ahead. What are you doing, Kei-chan? Can't you tell by looking? I'm practicing my swing for the championship. You can say it's part of my diet if you want. Diet? Kei-chan, are you really that fat? Bet you didn't know. I actually have a beer belly. It's plump and jiggles. Oh my god. Plump and jiggles. Rena, you don't have to imagine something weird like that. To disrupt Rena from imagining something that vulgar, I've ruffled her hair messily. Well then, hope you make it to regionals at least. This old man will cheer you on. Regionally speaking, it seems that Oshima High is pretty strong. They say their southpaw, Kamita-kun, is amazing. Good luck. It seems they've made me out as some kind of local prodigy, but oh well. Well, if I really did make it to the championship, it would be a cinch. After all, I'd be the pitcher and the catcher. I'd pitch the ball, then run past the ball, just throw and change over to being the catcher in a burst of super incredible explosive speed. I laughed dryly at the ludicrous image. Coming back to my senses, I smashed the bat against the ground. I like how the text is shaking a bit. Damn it. What am I laughing at? I'm just hitting it over and over, man. Bro, you gotta like chill, my dude. Like, go talk to your friends, buddy. I pounded the ground over and over. With each impact, the reverberation traveling through the bat stung my hands. If they make me smile like that, I'll ugh. Don't allow anyone close to me. Don't trust anyone. No matter how many times I tell myself that. If they made me smile like that, I'll ugh. I already knew quite well that there were demons dwelling in my smiling friends. But I just couldn't believe it. Did that kind of split personality really exist? Like how Rena confessed to the doctor. Were they simply being possessed by Oyashiro-sama? In other words, did a supernatural being like Oyashiro-sama really exist? And was it possessing everyone to try and kill me? Yeah, that would be wonderful. If only everyone were actually my friends all along and everything was all just Oyashiro-sama's fault. You damned fool, Keiichi Maebara. Come on now. I yelled out, drawing out all the power from the pit of my stomach and raised the bat violently into the air. Stop being so soft! As I screamed out with all my might, I beat the metal bat into the ground over and over. With every impact, my weakness was being beaten down. Bro, talk to your friends. Go have a discussion with them. Stop being caught up in your own head. Go talk to them. Smash. Forget. Smash. Don't be soft. Smash. Know your enemy. Smash. Like hell I'd let them kill me. My shoulders heaving up and down from my ragged breathing, I heard the first bell ring just as I calmed down. I gasped with a sudden realization. That was the final bell. As I felt all the tension drain from me, I let out a deep breath. My mind was in a muddled state for much of the entire day. I didn't feel like I was awake, but didn't feel like I was asleep either. I couldn't say it felt especially comfortable, but I felt a kind of relief that the sanctity of the school part of my daily life had yet to be violated. How long would I have to keep on living like this? I could only grit my teeth and bear with it as this living hell slowly gnawed away at me. Keiichi-kun, come on. It's club time, club time. The sound of Rena's voice brought me back to my senses. Come on, Keiichi-chan, stop spacing out. Bring your desk. Everyone was moving their desks together as usual. That's right, it was happy fun club time, but I had no intention of taking part. I haphazardly stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag as I prepared to go home. It was a weak-handed gesture to avoid having to actually say, I'll be going home now. What's this, Kei-chan? You planning on going home right away again? Mion sounded quite disappointed. I'm just not in the mood. Could you just let me be for a while? The tone of the words that spilled from my mouth matched Mion's disapproving glare. Felt like the air in the room had dried out. Satsuko looked like she was about to say something, perhaps dissuaded by the mood. She swallowed her words and stayed silent. Nobody said a thing. I took that to mean I could leave if I wanted. But the collective gaze of the four of them, like the tiny pins used to mount an insect in a display, held me in place. Ren was the one who cut through the heavy mood. Keiji-kun, you just didn't like playing with girls, I guess. She said it in such a melancholic tone that sent a wave of pain racing through my heart. If this pain was going to kill me, I wanted it to be the soft part of me that could still feel pain. Oof. Bro. I tore at my chest, violently tearing out the pins that held me in place. That's not it at all. I'd only be hurting myself by saying anything more, so I swallowed my words. Cutting things off there, I turned away and exited the classroom. They didn't speak a word to me as I left. Bro, I feel so bad, man. Like, he was going through it. It was a long, dull trip back home, but I didn't lose focus. I firmly squeezed the grip of the bat, which was already soggy from sweat. Realizing that, I wiped it down with my sleeve. If something were to happen, I wouldn't want it to be slippery. Since this morning, I'd become especially sensitive to the presence of cars. Smart dude like that. I was messed up. Even while walking, my ears pricked up and sought out threatening sounds and presences that could be closing in. And that was why I could hear it. Without a doubt, there were footsteps. Those footsteps had matched up perfectly with mine for a while now. From what I could sense, it was just one person. I had no intention of being careless. Did they intend to follow me like that car this morning until we were in a good location to assault me? Then it wasn't a good idea to keep walking like this. I stopped walking and looked back. The wooded path crowded with trees responded with silence as if there was nobody there to begin with. I wouldn't be fooled. I was certain footsteps were following me. And just as I stopped, the footsteps stopped as well. Meaning the person following me wanted to keep their distance. That was, without question, proof that I was their target. I held my breath, waited for that presence to panic and start moving again. The trees rustled with the sound of the wind. The Higurashi also joined in a dissonant chorus, trying to throw my focus in disarray. Had 5 minutes passed? Or had I been like this for a whole 30 minutes? It was so hard to breathe that I might have suffocated. It seemed I would be the first one to panic. Without a doubt, he was lurking in the shade of that tree with bated breath. Then I'd make the first move. I fixed my grip on the bat. I raised it up to my shoulder to be ready to swing it at any time. Hey, I know you're there. With all of my might, I screamed at whoever was hiding in the shade of the trees. But the presence in the shade didn't budge. Until the moment I found them, they had no intention of revealing themselves. I know already. I know you're there. I screamed out angrily at them again, but even still, they didn't move at all. I'll go over there myself. Bro, I think you're hearing things, my dude. With all due vigilance, I approached, step by step. Stepping into the tree's shadow, I saw a human figure there. That figure was curled up like a small animal. Oh, it's Rena. Rena! When she realized I had found her, her expression softened. She seemed apologetic, but wasn't going to speak a word. Did you have some business with me? I wouldn't accept that silence and screamed the question at her. Not really, it's just, Rena was in a panic with tears welling up in her eyes. Oh. It was obvious that she had been following me. What about the club? Since you're not, I'm not. That shouldn't matter. Don't mind me and just play. But I'm just worried about you. Oh, it's so sad. Thinking about how I'd been acting up until now, it wasn't hard to imagine that my behavior could be perceived as strange. You think, my dude? You think you're losing your mind. So Rena was concerned. At a quick glance, that's how it would seem. But I wasn't going to let my guard down that easily. Even if that was really the case, she still wouldn't have to do something like try to tail me. She should have called out to me when I was leaving and gone out right with me. But Rena didn't do that. She kept her distance from me and matched my walking speed. On top of that, she matched the sound of her footsteps and deviously tried to hide her presence from me. Then, after she realized I noticed she was there, she held her breath as she tried hiding from me. She wore a timid expression that would force one to take pity on her, but without a doubt, she was tailing me. Stop following me. How? Still glaring at Ren, I continued walking onwards. After I'd walked for a bit, she ignored my command and began walking again, so I yelled at her once more. I told you not to follow me. But my house is in the same direction. Then walk ahead of me. I'll start walking once I can't see you anymore. I moved out of the way and waved my bat violently to urge her forward. I'd like to go home together with you. Making a pitiful expression, she meekly squeaked out the words in a voice that she knew would cut into my heart. That agitated me to no end. I knew it was a lie. If you wanted to go home together, then you should have called out to me. Now you're just blurting out random lies. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. It seemed that the seething anger within me was written all over my face. Even without me saying anything, Ren understood what I was feeling inside. If you get it, then go. I swung the bat, urging her again to walk. Ren looked back and forth between me and the bat and started walking hesitantly, then stopped again. Go on then, hurry. I'm going. So please stop with the bat. It's scary. Ren guarded herself while pointing at me holding the bat. She may have realized I wasn't planning on using this bat for baseball. I lowered the bat, but still guardedly opened the way for her. Go. There's no problem now, is there? This is intense, man. I feel bad for Rena here. And I feel bad for both of them. They're going through it. There is nothing else she could protest. She passed by me timidly, so as to not set me off. As I watched her pass by, she stopped completely after having barely moved at all. Hey, don't stop. Then, a powerful gust blew past us, barraging my face with dust. The dust got into my eyes and clouded my vision. While rubbing my eyes with my left hand, I swung blindly with the bat in my right, protecting the small opening I had presented. But Rena didn't even try to attack during that opening. Attack me, no. She hadn't budged an inch. I could tell from the sound of her fluttering skirt in the wind. As her skirt settled, so did the silence. At that moment, the voice inside of me immediately warned me of impending danger. I was caught by surprise. The smell of the air had changed? How's that happen? Without me realizing it, the air around me suddenly felt like a calamity was about to befall me. It was like the air had suddenly become invisible concrete, like Rena and I were locked in space. Rena didn't move an inch. Also unable to move, I stared at her back. Rena was the first to break the silence. Instantly, she altered her stance. I felt like I just witnessed her shift from Rena into that other person who looks like Rena. But the voice was one I knew well, which filled me with a kind of bewildering pity. Carelessly, I felt relief upon hearing that pitiful voice. Well, excuse me, but, can I ask you something? Too shy to even turn around, Rena squeezed her voice out desperately. As she trembled. What? Well, why do you have a bat, I wonder? The question Rena asked me was by no means unexpected. I can carry whatever I want. But you didn't have one up until today. Well, why so suddenly? Sorry if I decide to do something suddenly, isn't it? Is it strange that I have a bat? But because, Keiichi, you're not the kind of person to play baseball. It's weird. I couldn't tell what kind of answer she was looking for, and I was getting tired of answering her. I just suddenly got the urge to play baseball. Is that so weird? It's weird. She answered instantly, and that annoyed me slightly. I just suddenly wanted to play baseball, and I wanted to practice my swing, so I'm carrying around a bat. What's so strange about that? Strange. Weird. Definitely. Why is Keiichi-kun also... Your ramblings are annoying me. God, Keiichi, you're being such an asshole. Is it that strange for me to have an interest in sports? I tried to sound a bit more threatening to end the conversation. Until my suspicions about Rena were cleared, I had no obligation to answer her questions. I'm sorry. Don't get so angry. Rena still didn't turn around and spat out words of apology one after the next. Just one last thing. Tell me one last thing. I don't feel like talking anymore. Hurry up and go. I yelled loudly at her, causing her to flinch like she had been struck. Seeing her in such a pathetic state caused my heart to ache sorely. But even though she was afraid, she stubbornly kept herself from moving. Before I was able to threaten her again, Rena asked her final question. Why is that bat the same too? What did she mean by the bat was the same? I had no idea what she was talking about. What are you saying? I mean, why is even the bat the same? I don't understand what you mean at all. Say it clearly. Even still, Rena didn't turn around. After inhaling deeply, she screamed. I mean, why is even the bat the same as Satoshi-kun's? Satoshi being... Huh? Upon hearing that name out of the blue, I became dumbfounded for a brief moment. By Satoshi, did she mean the student who transferred out last year? No, that couldn't be. Rena tried to cover it up by saying he transferred, but Oishi-san told me quite clearly that he was missing. He was the student who sat at my seat up until last year. He was believed to have been demoned away by Oshiro-sama's curse. I didn't know the details about his disappearance. The aunt he lived with was killed the night of the Watanagashi by a drug addict, and not long after that, he suddenly vanished and was now missing. That Satoshi and I were... What? My gaze fell to the bat in my hands. Could it be Satoshi Hojo? Oh, the music is so creepy in this game. It was a bit difficult to see. That was what was written on the white tape at the end of the bat. I see. So this was Satoshi's bat. Oh. This was Satoshi's bat. Since nobody was using it, I borrowed it. It's not a problem, is it? That's not it. The way Rena said that made it seem like this bat was something that should never be touched. Like it was some sort of offering at a shrine or a memento of the deceased. I could only stand there, perplexed and unable to respond. Rena continued speaking without waiting for a reply. Why is it that you're doing the exact same things Satoshi-kun did when it happened to him? Rena was talking about more than just the bat belonging to Satoshi. It was the same with Satoshi-kun. He joined a baseball team, but he didn't really like baseball. What does that have to do with me? Satoshi-kun also suddenly started walking around with a bat one day. He joined a team, but he wasn't the type to play sports. What about it? I closed my mouth before I could say that out loud. Listen carefully, Keiichi. Ren is trying to tell us something important. Satoshi-kun also one day came to school all by himself all of a sudden, just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day he suddenly started practicing his swing, just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day he suddenly began carrying the bat around with him, just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day he suddenly what? Ren had swallowed her words. Ren's sudden silence brought a hush back to the surrounding area. It was then that I could finally digest the content of the entire conversation. She was saying my chain of actions was exactly the same as Satoshi's. What was the meaning of this? Up until just now, I'd forgotten all about Satoshi. I had never paid much thought to him in the first place. Not only that, I didn't even know anything of what he'd done. My actions today should have been my own creation, after all the planning I had done. But they had been the exact same as Satoshi's. Then more importantly, if both Satoshi and I acted the same, then there was a really good possibility that what happened after would be the same. Rena, that day, what happened to Satoshi? Rena knew. She knew what became of Satoshi. Forget about what happened to a guy in the past. Rena knew what was going to happen to me. Answer me, Rena. Satoshi, what happened to him? With that, I grabbed Rena's shoulder violently and forcibly turned her around to face me. As I faced her, I felt a jolt travel through my entire body. I told you, Keiichi-kun. It was that person that I didn't know. At least, it definitely wasn't the Rena Ryugu I'd been talking to up until now. The voice just now didn't have a trace of the trembling or emotion that it had before. The amount of regret I felt for turning her around so carelessly was unsurpassed. That gaze that pierced like a cold needle, the smile on her face that invoked an image of having been carved out by a knife. Chills went down my spine. My mind froze under a layer of rime. Both of Rena's eyes pierced through mine, leaving me unable to look away. As if to remind me of the fear from that time before, Rena brought her face close to mine, so close that I could feel her breath. Her face had filled my entire field of vision. Then, her sharply shaped lips grew even sharper, like the curve of a crescent moon. She grinned. I told you, Keiichi-kun. After a short pause, Rena repeated the same words again. Satoshi-kun, you see, transferred out. Whoops. Satoshi-kun, you see, transferred out. Transferred meaning what? What Rena meant must have been some new definition of transfer that I was previously not aware of. My throat and lips dried up. I couldn't even acknowledge what I had just heard. All I could do was swallow down my own saliva. It would seem that Rena saw that as a nod. She pulled her great gaze back and spryly stepped back 2-3 paces. As she did, my legs gave out and I fell to my knees pathetically. Rena, and me on my knees underneath her, a motionless smile. That had to be a very odd sight indeed. Seeing me in that pathetic state, she neither scoffed at me nor held out her hand. I could neither stand nor escape with her gaze shooting through my eyes. There was undoubtedly a metal bat in my hand, but right now it was useless to me. I was like a fly caught in her web. Heavy sweat beaded all over my body. I could feel it dripping from my skin. But you won't, will you, Keiichi-kun? Rena finally released me from that cage of time after what felt like an eternity. But her question was missing something important and was incredibly vague. Once again I swallowed hard, urging her on. Do what? What did she not want me to do? Transfer. God, that was just a horrifying face. I don't like it. You can't end it like that. That can't be the middle of it. You can't end on that nightmare face screen. Oh, I hate it so much, man. Come on. Alright, let's Oh, is that the end of the chapter? Oh, no, it's just an achievement. Okay. Satoshi and I had what? All my well-planned actions throughout the day turned out to have been nothing more than a reenactment of what Satoshi had done. Satoshi, had he really been in the same situation as I was now? The friends he had gotten along with had changed suddenly, and for no reason, at least none that I had noticed. Planned to kill him? Then, fearing for his life as I am, he got a bat to protect himself and carried it around every day to practice his swing? And then one day, suddenly, he transferred. My blood went cold, causing a prickling sensation to course through my veins. Starting near my heart, it radiated outwards, from the top of my head to the soles of my feet, chilling every part of me without recourse. What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Was Satoshi still at wherever he transferred to? Was he the only one who would be able to understand me? Would he be able to tell me why it all ended up like this? More importantly, where did he transfer to? What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Yo, my dude is struggling right now. Before I knew it, I was at my front door. The frigid knob was hard to turn. Was nobody home? It wasn't that odd of an occurrence. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the single key attached to my fur seal keychain. All I saw is the little keychain that he got from when they were at the festival. That's depressing. Talk to your friends, bro. Please. I stepped into the entryway. Just as I was about to take off my shoes, a chill ran down my spine. Someone had entered right behind me. I don't like that. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. Like a classmate messing around, standing right up against my back. You're kidding, right? It had to be my imagination. Logically speaking, it was impossible for someone to be able to hide their presence within my personal space all the way through the door. But there was undoubtedly someone behind me. Hey now, Keiichi. How do you know they're there, even though they're behind you? What? Because I could hear the sound of flowing hair. There's no other reason I'd hear that sound. That was the presence. Because I could hear the sound of them blinking. Bro, you are losing your mind. You gotta, like, you're at, like, a 10 right now. You gotta bring it down to, like, a 2. Like, you gotta chill. Keiichi, my baro, there's no way you could hear that. Exactly. See, there you go. Bring it down a bit, buddy. It was mostly instinct than anything else that was warning me of the presence. Common sense was telling me that was just my imagination. It was just my imagination. There was nobody behind me. I began to erase the mental image of an eerie figure standing behind me. At the same time, I asked myself, if there was nobody, then what was I feeling? As an uncomfortable sensation crawled up my spine. Actually, wouldn't it be better if there was somebody there? If there was nobody there when you turned around, would you be able to accept that? I'd be able to answer all those questions just by looking behind me. But I didn't have enough courage to even do that simple task. Oh, right. I could try speaking to them. The person behind me might answer me. It was a random thought. I didn't care how I went about it, just so long as I didn't have to turn around. If I'd calmed down and thought about it, I would have known that that wouldn't have solved anything. Who is it? I spoke in such a hoarse, broken voice that I couldn't believe it was my own. I could almost feel them contemplating their response. I felt it. There's no way I should be able to do that. Calm down, Keiichi. It's all in your head. That time, I was certain I heard it. As if hesitantly trying to answer my inquiry, I was certain I could hear the sound of someone inhaling. I heard it. I heard it. I heard it clearly. It was a girl. A young girl. I didn't know who, but a tiny speck of courage in me, however reckless it was, inspired a primal yet fitting solution to this current predicament. A scream. Hey, you know what? That always works. All the force of my body released from my lungs and through my throat, ceasing all thought process in my head. Suppressing all my thoughts and emotions, I began to collapse like a house of cards, somehow managing to twist my body and look back as I did so. It was definitely there. Right there. Somebody was there. Until the moment I turned around, until I brought the area behind me into my field of vision, they were definitely there. Falling face up, my eyes traced the remnants of the presence suspended in the empty space. They couldn't be. They were invisible. They looked like they weren't there, but they were actually still standing there? As I screamed, all the emotions I was holding back burst free in a violent wave. However, I was decidedly calm as my emotional dam collapsed. The turbulent wave of pent-up emotions was skillfully diverted into a torrent of aggression. That emotion was definitely required to extricate myself from the bizarre situation happening right in front of me. In my state of heightened lucidity, I entrusted my body to the fury. The metal bat held firm in my right hand as if drawn there by a magnet. A mid-level sweep would be the hardest attack to dodge. I remember reading something like that from a book about swordsmanship or something. Oh man, this is intense, dude. Keiichi's I know I've said it a few times now, he's going through it. He's in the struggle bus. He's hearing stuff behind him. My dude's gotta chill. Just like put the bat down and have a glass of water or something, my dude. Rah! I brandished my will to fight. The afterimage of that amalgamation of metal flashed as it swung from left to right and beating against the entryway. He was like knocking the door. The bat slammed into the right wall, the tip rebounding violently. Very calmly, I transferred the force of the rebound into a sweep to the left. All you're doing is beating up your own house, dude. The door of the shoe cupboard was split into pieces. Those two swings whiffed through empty space, but they seemed to have a great psychological impact on the enemy. I could feel the panic emanating from that space. The attack wasn't the only thing required. I extracted the bat from the cupboard it was embedded in and screamed as I spun my entire body around in a large arc. Rah! My scream shook the air, imbuing my ferocious swing with even more destructive power. Oof. What'd you hit this time, dude? Crack. Without mercy or restraint, my violent strike, with certainly fatal force behind it, shattered the top of the cupboard. That poor cupboard, man. None of my attacks struck my enemy, but my ferocity had certainly seemed to impact them. Breathing heavily, my entire body soaked in sweat, the invisible enemy, there but not there, dispersed. When I was certain that the enemy had retreated, I locked the front door and latched the chain. No way had it only feigned retreat and was now inside my house. Once again, I channeled my aggression and searched the house for the presence. But it was gone. I had succeeded in fending it off. At that moment, the tension drained from my body and I let out a deep sigh of relief. All the emotions I'd been holding back chaotically merged together and began to flood out. A hodgepodge of fear, accomplishment, and disbelief all mixed together and began to flow through my body. Unable to deal with each individual feeling, I beat them all back with the strongest, exhaustion. Even in this moment, I remained composed. After checking that all the doors throughout the house were locked, I went up to my room on the second floor and closed the curtains. I straightened my back and tilted my head back a little. After clearing my mind of all my idle thoughts, I managed to calm down even more. What was that at the front door? There was definitely something there. Thinking about it, maybe it was just an apparition I dreamt up in my confused state, but I really didn't think that was the case. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Compose yourself. But no matter how calmly I thought about it, what just happened wasn't a figment of my imagination. It was obviously a supernatural phenomenon, and without a doubt, something was behind me. It wasn't some sort of illusion I saw amidst my confusion and disorientation. Proof? I had just one piece. Is it the name of the treasure? When I asked who is it, they inhaled as if they were about to answer. That sound had clearly reached my ears. The situation I was in right now was still unclear. Either I'd been possessed by a supernatural phenomenon known as Oshiro-sama's curse, or this was a ruse by the villagers who believed in it and were imitating it. How could they imitate an invisible person, dude? Think logically. Either way, their motives were unclear. The roundabout way it had been done was also still a mystery. If it was perpetrated by humans, that would mean admitting that was Ren and the rest of them doing it, but it would be solvable. Oishi-san and the rest of the police would surely arrest my enemy. But if it was a manifestation of Oshiro-sama's curse, I wondered what would happen. Oishi-san had very clearly declared that curses didn't exist. At that time, those words were pretty dependable. But as things were now, with the rising possibility that the perpetrators were not human, he suddenly seemed quite unreliable. Yeah, there's nothing to do against, unhuman stuff, bro. If I told Oishi-san this was the work of Oshiro-sama's curse, what would happen? I couldn't imagine his reaction, but it would go without question that a void would expand rapidly between myself and Oishi-san. Yeah, you'd think that you're insane, dude. With me having so few allies to begin with and not being able to confidently declare whether or not this was a curse or not, there's no merit in doing that. I'd better keep the facts of what just happened at the doorway to myself. It'd be better if I didn't add what happened here to the memo behind the clock. There was still the ever so slight possibility that I was actually confused when I thought I was composed, and I was just going berserk in the entryway. How wonderful would that be if it was really what happened? I'd be able to refute Oshiro-sama's curse. But if I denied Oshiro-sama's curse, then that would mean admitting that Ren and the rest were the perpetrators. If I said that Ren and the rest weren't the perpetrators, then that would mean believing in Oshiro-sama's curse. By denying both of these, I'd be admitting that I myself was losing it. The three options from which I couldn't choose became a trilemma of sorts. They mixed together and formed a whirlpool in my mind, making my head spin. Once again, I straightened myself and leaned my head back slightly to cool myself down. Calm down, Keiichi. Accept what has actually happened as reality. Stop thinking of anything more than that. But I couldn't help thinking of it. How wonderful it would be if it turned out I was delirious and everything up until now was a figment of my imagination. Oishiro-sama's curse wouldn't exist and I would still be bestest buddies with Rena and the rest. I would have to be crazy. That was the first time in my life I'd ever wished for such a thing. Oh, bro, go talk to your friends. I swear. Talk to your friends. Nap time? Alright, he's going to sleep. Is that the end of the chapter? Or are we still in it? We're still in it. God damn it. The phone rang noisily downstairs. Generally, there were no calls for me, so I never really answered the phone much. But since my parents weren't here, I had no choice. I squirmed off the bed and went downstairs. This has been a heavy one, man. This is getting definitely heavier as it goes. Hello, this is the Maibara residence. Keiichi, this is Mom. I intuitively had a bad feeling about this. It was because I thought she was going to ask me to go out and buy some things. So I took the initiative. What? I don't mind having instant noodles for dinner. There's still a lot of them. The other day we went out as a family and bought a whole case of cup noodles. I wanted to get a bunch of different kinds actually, but they refused since the individual packs were expensive. So instead I got a whole case of the mega-sized pork bone and ginger flavored ones I liked. That actually sounds good, not gonna lie. But my parents don't like strong flavors and didn't touch any of them, so the cupboards were still full of them. So you see, there really isn't a need to go shopping, right? Keiichi, I'm not asking you to go shopping. Both Mommy and Daddy have to go to Tokyo right now because of work. Huh? Right now? This was really abrupt. No, we're already here. We left this afternoon. It's quite a distance to Tokyo from Hinamizawa. Gunning at full speed down the highway would still take 6 hours. Dad has a license, but since he doesn't like the highway, they likely took the train. It would have taken longer. I'm thinking you might understand since you heard us speaking last night, but it has to do with Daddy's contract. Right now, things aren't going so smoothly. Now that she mentioned it, I did remember that they talked all the time about how his job prospects weren't looking so good. Daddy's really sensitive about things like this, so if you leave things as they are, it'll affect his work. Part of my father's particular fragile artistic personality, his emotions change as easily as the fall sky. You could also just say you couldn't take criticism. Ugh. Gotta take criticism, though. But something like that can be done over the phone. Keiichi, this is your father's job, so can you support him a bit, please? Anyway, it's just faster to talk about it in person, so there wouldn't be any misunderstandings. Exactly. That's what you should be doing right now, Keiichi. Go talk to your friends. As their son, there's nothing more I could say once they started talking about work. So we'll be back tomorrow night. Keiichi, will you be fine on your own? It's not like I'll die or anything. Keiichi, you shouldn't speak so lightly of dying. If there's something troubling you, just talk to us. I believe Mommy will be able to help out. Yesterday I did bring up if I died rather abruptly, so I suppose they were a little worried. But really, I was more depressed by the fact that nothing would be solved by telling them. But I didn't plan on dying. At least not while I still knew nothing. I would never allow it. I won't die. I won't. I'll survive even if I have to gnaw my leg off. Yeah, see you then. Tomorrow morning, make sure to wake up and eat breakfast. And don't forget to take a bath and brush your teeth. Yeah, see you. The call ended like that. Sometimes my parents went off to Tokyo for business meetings. But Tokyo was far away. They normally did things by phone. The times they did go were normally planned out in advance. It never happened suddenly. I couldn't say that those circumstances didn't feel strange or rather unnatural. Anyway, I only need to recognize the reality of the situation. That tonight, I was the only one in the house. That when my parents came back from work, I'd be gone, missing, vanished. Looking back on the series of events of the previous 5 years involving Onishiro-sama's curse, it wouldn't seem that strange at all. Come to think of it, it was getting pretty late. I didn't think it was good that the only light on in the whole house was from my room on the second floor. It was the same as broadcasting to the enemy that my parents were gone and this was their chance. First I ran to the living room, flicked on the lights, and turned the TV on to a reassuring volume. Next was the study. I similarly turned on the lights and some music. With this, from the outside, it would look like my parents were here. Once again, I went through the house, checking to see if there was anything left unlocked. When I saw the veranda and the laundry still hanging out there, I went pale. That would have made it too obvious. I need to take it down. I snatched down the laundry haphazardly and erased all traces that my mother wasn't there. It should be fine now. Ah, the garage. They hadn't gone all the way to Tokyo by car, but they had gone up to Okinomiya Station. The garage was empty, wide open, and in plain sight. That was not good. I panicked and rushed out the back to close the normally open garage door. It should be fine now. I need to get some paper. Mom always got the paper. Since left in the afternoon, the evening paper was still out there. My premonition was correct. I pulled out everything from the mailbox and dropped it in the entryway. With this, for sure this time, it should be fine. Nailed it, dude. You got it. Come to think of it, leaving the cupboard busted like that for my little freak out was kind of bad. I'll just say I tripped and fell, and the bat I was holding smashed into it. Nah, that works. Even so, just leaving it in its current state wasn't good. I should clean up a little bit before Mom got back and scolded me. Ring, ring, ring. I remembered that there was a broom and dustpan in the closet. As I was going to get them, the phone rang once again. Hello, this is the Maibara residence. Oh, is this Keiichi-kun? Is your mother around? She isn't here at the moment. You idiot, Keiichi Maibara. Don't reveal that your parents are gone. You can follow up still. Calm down and take care of it. I think she'll be back soon. Yeah, saved it. Nice job, buddy. God, that wasn't a good response either. Now they might say they'll call again, or to tell her to call them when she comes back. Then that's fine. It wasn't anything important. Well then, sorry for the bother. The scenario I'd feared didn't play out, eliciting a sigh of relief. That call was fortunate in more ways than one. I'd have to deal with more telephone calls coming in from my parents tonight. I was somehow able to deal with the phone call just now, but I couldn't continue to rely on such poor improvisation. I needed to make a good story to explain that my parents were home, but couldn't answer the phone at the moment. They were making tempura and couldn't step away right now. That wasn't good enough. They were sick and went to bed because they weren't feeling well. Is that going to be safe enough? I was thinking about it on the way back to my room when the phone rang once again. Bro, you were just popular. It was like they were calling because they knew I was going to lie. I didn't want to pick up, but I knew I had to. They'd suspect my parents weren't here. Whoops. I should have just taken the phone off the hook under the pretense that I didn't realize that it was. But since the phone rang, I had to pick it up. I prepared myself and lifted up the receiver. Hello? I stopped announcing this was my bar residence. I had no reason to be kind to someone I didn't know the identity of. But unlike my uncouth voice, the person on the other side sounded goofy and lighthearted. Hello, my apologies for calling so late. This is Oishi from the Okamiya bookstore. Oishi-san? Is that you, my brother-san? Good evening. Good to hear you are doing well. But wait just a moment, please. I grabbed the portable handset and rushed up to my room with it. It was the same no matter where I was since there was no one else home. I wanted to be in a spot that just felt a bit safer when speaking on the phone with Oishi-san. Sorry for the wait. How are things? Anything changed since then? Since then? When was that exactly? There was something about the brazen way he talked that rubbed me the wrong way. Last time I spoke with Oishi-san was 2 days ago. The day I stayed home from school, I met Oishi-san on the way back from the hospital, and we headed into town for lunch and had a talk. Then after that, Ren and Mion came to check up on me. Whenever I spoke with Oishi-san, they always knew about it. It was like that since the first time I met him. Today's phone call may well be found out by them as well. Hello? Can you hear me, my Bara-san? Huh? Sorry. What did you say? I asked if anything's changed since last time. There wasn't an answer, so I got a bit worried. Not really. The words stopped in my throat. There was a ton of stuff that happened. All of it baffling. What should I talk about? I didn't understand any of it, but I should try asking. If I didn't ask now, I may never have another chance. This night when my parents weren't home, I had no guarantees I would make it through the night safely after all. Well, Oishi-san, it seems that someone is after me. Really? It could all just be a coincidence, but that day I missed school when I was sick, the two of them came to check up on me. Which two? Rena and Mion. They started asking about how I had lunch with you. What next? They left me some mochi when they came to visit, but there was a needle inside. Fortunately, I somehow didn't swallow it. I wonder, could that have just been a threat? About the needle. It was just one of those common sewing needles you see all the time. There was a hole to thread string through. Not that, my brother-san, the needle itself. That's evidence. It could be used as proof that they threatened you. Where is that needle? That's right, that's it. I dropped the receiver and rushed downstairs. When I tossed the mochi, I had overlooked it out of terror, but that needle was a valuable piece of evidence. I had certainly thrown the mochi and needle at the wall together. If it was there, then it would be on the living room wall. I'm sure it's been cleaned up by now, dude. But my prudent mother had cleaned that living room wall, and there was not a trace of mochi left on it. Could it be that it dropped in the gap between the wall and the carpet? I frantically searched by running my palm along the carpet, but nothing turned up. I tried moving around the sofa and desks, pulling up the carpet, then flapping it around, but I couldn't find the needle. Did my mom clean up everything without noticing it? It was just 2 days ago. I didn't know what day they collected the burnable trash, but it may still be in the trash bin in the kitchen. I rushed into the kitchen, opened up the lid of the pail, and poured out the contents. But even at a glance, I could tell that it would be incredibly difficult to find the needle in this pile of trash. Yeah, you guys know what I'm saying. A needle in a pile of trash. Hard to find. I was looking for a needle in a trash stack. I know. I'll try running my hand through it. Ew, gross. It was a bit gross, but I was looking for a needle. If I felt a small prick, I'll be able to find it. It was a pretty tactless method, but it was the quickest. I held my breath and started striking a pile of trash with my hand. Filth flew about. There was nothing more disgusting than this, but it was not the time to be concerned about such details. I continued on for a while, but nothing turned up. I wanted to search more thoroughly, but I was still on the phone. I shouldn't keep Oishi-san waiting for too long. Later, when Mom got back, I'll have to ask her if there was a needle. I hastily began scribbling on the notepad affixed to the refrigerator with a magnet. Was there a needle? Question marks. I scrawled the words with a red pen. I then dashed back up the stairs where I had been keeping Oishi-san waiting for far too long. Hello? How did it go? I couldn't find it. I was really overwhelmed back then, and... I see. It would be great if you could find it. Keep it safe. That's right, the needle wasn't the only incident. I had to tell him about this morning with the hit and run. Also, Oishi-san, this isn't all. Actually, this morning, that van was definitely aiming for me. I could say that without question due to circumstances at that time. Did you see the license plate? I can search for it from here. Damn. I just flipped out yelling at him back then, but I didn't look at the plate. What failures on my part with the needle and the plate number? I was so focused just protecting myself that I left some of the most important details slip out of my grasp. I punched my pillow, annoyed at how worthless I was. I'm sorry, I don't know much more than that. It was a white van. Nothing to fret about, my bro-san. Anyone would be shaken up after being hit. I guess all of this really isn't a coincidence, is it? Oishi-san started to hem and haw over on the other end. I could imagine him folding his arms. Also, Rena is acting strange. How so? Well, Rena said on the way home today, asking why I was so much like Satoshi-kun. Now I could say it with confidence, that Rena knew what happened to Satoshi. She knew that there was more to it than just him just simply disappearing. Rena knows. She knows something regarding what happened to Satoshi, the kid who was demoned away last year. What would that be exactly? Rena said I was the same as Satoshi. She said something to the effect that the way things are going, I'll end up with the same fate as Satoshi. Fate, you say? Exactly what kind of fate did she say would befall you? Transferring out, she said. Transferring out? Rena said Satoshi transferred out. So given how things are going with me, I'll transfer out too. Oishi-san let out a stern sigh and then grumbled loudly. My bro-san, that was probably some sort of threat. Or maybe some type of warning. I thought so too. At that point, I started to think. Would it be prudent to sum up everything that had happened up until now as the machinations of some human perpetrator? Other than the theory of it being Ren and the others, I was left with Oishiro-sama's curse actually existing as the only other explanation. Of course, I couldn't tell that to Oishi-san. Except, Ren's strange behavior could be proof of either scenarios. Whether it was Oishiro-sama's curse being real, or everything being part of a conspiracy committed by all of the villagers. Rena was involved. Rena had to know something. Rena was suspicious. What exactly was Rena? I couldn't help but think she was somehow involved with the prior string of mysterious deaths. I seem to recall that Oishi-san had admitted that he had dug into Rena's past a little. He was probably just downplaying it when he said, a little. Meaning he had actually dug pretty deep, most likely. I wanted to hear about Rena. I wanted to know what happened to her at previous school, among other things that were still unknown to me. If Rena was somebody I should suspect... No, not that. I wanted to know the truth. Tonight, I was alone in this huge house. Even though I said I couldn't count on them, I had lost the security I felt I had just by my parents being around. It wasn't like this house was some sort of fortress or castle. If a malicious person decided to use brute force, they'd easily gain entry. There were no other residences close to my bar residence. No one would be able to hear anything, no matter how loud it was. I had never felt as much resentment towards my father's artistic temperament and the fact that he had his house built in such a remote location as I did right now. Oh. That made me jump. I wonder if it would still be here by tomorrow morning. So I had to ask, right now, because I had no idea when the next chance would come. He's just ignoring the doorbell. Oishi-san, I have something I wanted to ask about. Please don't keep anything from me. Sure, ask away. Even though he's so far away on the other end of the line, this was the most reliable he had ever felt. I wanted to ask about Rena, about what happened at our previous school. Actually, regarding Rena's... I noticed a sound that had been going on for a while now. Since I was so focused on the call, I hadn't paid attention to it at first. I finally realized it was the doorbell. The time was 7 o'clock. It was past the time the postman would be making a delivery, and past any sensible time for a neighbor to be visiting. I considered just acting like nobody was home, but that wouldn't be good. That would ruin all the work I put in making it look like my parents were home. Dude's trying to do a Home Alone scenario. I need to answer the door. Hello, Maibara-san? Sorry, someone seems to be at the door. I'm going to go see who it is. A guest? I see. My apologies. Should we end the phone call now? That'd be a problem. No, I'll be back in a second. Do you mind if I just leave the phone on? It's fine, I don't mind. I dropped the handset on my bed and dashed down to the door. I need to make a good excuse to get them to leave. I had a hunch it was the lady who called right before Oishi-san did. In which case, it would be one of the neighbors who's friends with my mom. I'll just say mom isn't feeling well and wants bed early. That'd be the easiest option. It'd be hard for her to ask me to wake my mom up if she's not feeling well. The bell continued to ring at regular intervals. If someone didn't answer after you rang the bell so much, you'd normally give up and go home, wouldn't you? Without removing the chain, I opened the door slightly and peered out the visitor. A chill ran down my spine. I knew it. Somewhere deep inside, I prepared for this moment. I tried to escape by imagining it was the easiest person to deal with, one of my mom's friends. Nope. Ichigo Reina. Good evening. Rena. There shouldn't be any reason for Rena to come over at this hour. The timing also made me feel uneasy, because it was just as I was about to ask Oishi-san about Rena. I wish I could have chalked this up to mere coincidence. But those unsettling words from Mion several days ago echoed back to me. There's nothing this old man doesn't know. Spooky. Are you alone, Rena? Yeah. It seems that Mion wasn't with her, but that didn't change the situation at all. Why did you come here? Hey, Keiichi-kun, I'd like you to open the door so we can talk. Can I come inside, I wonder? It was true that speaking through a chain door wasn't the right way to talk to a classmate, but at my house, the chain has to be on at night. Don't worry about it. Then it can't be helped, I guess. Rena pouted rather sadly, but she kept smiling at least, and her effort to keep that smile up was quite pitiful. Even though she was tugging at my heartstrings, I didn't lower my guard. As long as I stayed like this, even if it made my heart ache, my life wasn't in danger. What I really feared, more than the possibility that hoodlums would assault me if I removed the chain, was trusting Rena enough to remove the chain, and having my friendship betrayed. As long as the chain wasn't unlatched, even if it made my heart ache, I wouldn't have to deal with being betrayed by Rena. Since it didn't seem like I'd removed the chain from her silent urging, she appeared to give up on trying to get into the entranceway. Have you eaten yet, Keiichi-kun? No, I haven't eaten. Since my mom wasn't there, dinner wouldn't be ready no matter how long I waited. I would hope you don't sit there and wait for your mom to make dinner when they're, in a different city, just like 6 hours away. Ugh. I laid down when I got home and was woken up by the phone and didn't have a chance to eat since I used up all the time talking. I was going to have cup noodles in any case. I could just eat one whenever I wanted to. No, not yet. What about it? Then good. Look here. I brought a bunch of dishes. Ren held out a stack of boxes wrapped in a cloth. If I could use your kitchen, I can heat up the miso soup and other stuff. It's fine, you don't need to do that. But there's a lot of tofu and vegetables in it. Does Keiichi-kun not like that type of stuff, I wonder? There's no way I wouldn't like that. I love miso soup with lots of ingredients. With radish, carrots, burdock root, and potatoes. Dense and fibrous root vegetables. That does sound really good, not gonna lie. Yeah, that miso soup looks incredible. I also brought rice, so if you microwave it, you can eat it really quickly. Without a doubt, rice needs miso soup. Stuffing rice down your gullet, sipping miso soup in between ravenous bites. Oh yes, how wonderful it is to be born Japanese. That does sound good. Also, I made some more pickles. I made sansai pickles this time. Before I had moved here to Hinamizawa, I scoffed at the mountain vegetables called sansai. But I was captivated by their charm the first time I tried them. Such a deep yet light flavor. The vegetables from the supermarket were tasteless and bland compared to these. If you had to describe them, then they were the vegetables for the uninitiated. To become an expert such as myself, you first had to partake of sansai. It was common knowledge around here that the Ryugu family's traditional pickles were wonderfully delicious. No matter what kind of pickles they were. They'd go so well with that fluffy white rice. It sounds like such a good meal, man. And also... But wait, there's more. It's so delicious, it just seems so delicious. Fair and well to my unhealthy self who said he'd make do with a cup noodles. Ren appeared to be in good spirits and she was offering such a delicious-sounding dinner. The stress evaporated from my gut and hunger reared its ferocious head. Voracious. At the same time, my wariness of Rena suddenly dwindled. Rena did say she was alone. It shouldn't be a problem letting her inside. Though, the possibility that was laced with poison still hadn't been ruled out. At that moment, a cold chill ran down my spine once again. I couldn't understand why such a sensation had occurred just then, but the voice inside me was sounding the alarm. This happy Rena speaking of this charming dinner was dependent on one premise, and that premise was that tonight, dinner hadn't been made at my house, meaning it was under the assumption that my mom, who should be making it, wasn't here. At any normal household, 7 o'clock would be around the middle of dinner time. If my mom were here, we'd be eating dinner around this time as well. The fact that she brought over all the makings of a meal at this time was inherently strange. Unless she knew. Rena, did she know that my parents weren't home? But there was also the chance that this was a bluff. I had turned on lights and a bunch of other stuff to make it seem like my parents were here. There was a chance that Rena was unsure if my parents were home. But I had to wonder. The laundry, the garage, the evening paper. There were plenty of signs of them being hastily tidied up. It was hard to say that Rena didn't have a chance to determine if my parents were here or not. But there's no reason for me to confess that right now. I should try holding on to the fact as long as I could. First of all, the chain was still latched. As long as I didn't take it off, Rena wouldn't be able to do anything to me. I'm quite grateful, but dinner will be ready pretty soon. Huh? Is that so? I know you went through all the effort and everything, but, well, unable to think of a good way to refuse, my words trailed off weakly. But some of this could work as side dishes, I think. I'm sorry, we have more than enough already. My mom always makes quite a few side dishes, so... Huh? You have side dishes? With a smile that bordered on a cringe, I dodged your questions apologetically. But the feeling I tried to ignore began creeping up my back again. I spoke as if my mom was setting down dinner right now, but it didn't mesh well with what Rena was saying. Rena was talking as if she was aware of some obvious fact, and that I was aware of it as well. So, Keiichi-kun can cook. What did you make, I wonder? No, well, it's not that Rena had assumed out of nowhere that I had made the dishes. No, not so much that I had made them, rather that my mom hadn't. Did you really make them? The side dishes? Did you, Keiichi-kun? It wasn't me who made them. My mom did. No, she's making them. Right now. He's just losing his story here, friend. So you see, I'm sorry, but I can't eat what you brought. Rena fell silent at that moment. At that moment, I felt that the light had suddenly disappeared from her eyes. How about I try guessing what Keiichi-kun's dinner will be? It doesn't matter what I'm going to eat. Let's see. The conversation might appear natural at first glance, but Rena was firmly in control. Felt like I was being interrogated. Your dinner, I wonder, is it something that can be made with just hot water? Hey, now stop with the insults. I can't believe you'd belittle my mom's extravagant dinner like that. Tickets sold out, full capacity already. It's that amazing. I tried my best to put on a strong front, but I couldn't grit my teeth quite right. So instead, I looked like someone who was borderline hysterical. But Rena showed no reaction whatsoever, even to that silliness. Keiichi-kun, did your mother really leave you dinner? No, you see, she didn't leave me dinner. She's making it right now. It's almost time for dinner. Rena had taken the assertion of mine that my mother was home and making dinner right now, and was completely ignoring it. I could tell that the more I panicked, the colder Rena became. Hey, Keiichi-kun. At that moment, an uncomfortable chill crept in from the gap in the doorway. Is your mom home, I wonder? I couldn't keep up the charade anymore. Rena, she knew full well that my parents weren't home. But I'd come too far to admit that now. Anyway, my parents were here and we'd be having dinner soon. That was the situation I had concocted. So I answered. I told her she was here. She's here, of course. I could feel the humidity drying out from the surrounding air. Rena's eyes were becoming even more frigid, piercing me with their gullid glare. Why? Huh? What do you mean, why? I tried acting casual, but that facade was torn off me the instant I looked into Rena's eyes. That look, it informed me of Rena's response faster than she could open her mouth. Why have you been lying to me, I wonder? I'm not lying. That's a lie, isn't it? It's not a lie. Oh, God. Lies! Oh, okay. This is so unnerving, I don't like it. Rena's outburst sent a jolt surging through my body. Ren and I were still separated by what few inches that slightly ajar but still chained door could afford. But despite that, I was still being cornered. My house, which I'd considered a safe haven until now, had become more like a dark alleyway where no one could save me. Shall I guess your dinner, Keiichi-kun? Let's see. I knew now that Rena had already known that my parents would not be here tonight, but it was still so strange that it had come to this. Even if she somehow knew that my parents weren't home, there was no way she should be able to guess what I'd be eating tonight. But Rena said she'd guess. How could she guess it? How could she know it was instant cup noodles? That's right, isn't it? That I was going to eat. Wait, the cooking repertoire of a man who can't do housework is probably nothing but cup noodles after all. Mood. Looking at this statistically, it was the most probable answer. That didn't mean she was guessing. I don't think you'll be full with just noodles. I think having rice and stuff will definitely hit the spot. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. This was just coincidence. Rena was just reading certain tells of mine. So the fact that she was inferring that I was talking, or inferring what I was thinking, alarmed me. But it wasn't as if she was actually reading my mind. If it was being read, then she was a demon. No, not a demon. Things like that, they couldn't possibly exist. Do you like them? Do you mean noodles? No. What? What is she saying? Rena indicated that the point my answer was addressing was wrong. Her rebuttal was so short that I momentarily didn't understand her words Rena had spoken. Oh, okay. So you just couldn't understand what she was saying there, and that's why it's like blocked out. Sorry, Rena. What did you say just now? Huh? About what? Just now you asked me if there was something that I liked, didn't you? It wasn't long before I regretted how carelessly I'd pushed forward with that question. It was such a simple answer. That was why I wasn't able to comprehend it. Pork bone and ginger flavor. I don't like when the screen goes like that. I wondered how I appeared in the moments my mind went completely blank until the moment I was able to recover. As my field of view began to distort, slowly swirling in a counterclockwise direction, I lost all sense of balance. Why do you know that? I didn't even deny it. That was the type of frenzied state I was in. How could Rena know even this? Not even caring as I mashed my head against the door, I fixated my gaze on Rena. But she didn't even flinch when she saw me do that. I certainly did buy them. I bought a bunch at once. I bought a whole case. How could you know that? Why, I wonder? That's a creepy face, man. I don't like it. Quite strange, isn't it? Isn't it? How could you dodge the question at a time like this? The chain and door suddenly were no longer protecting me. How do you know? Why do you know? Answer me. You bought them at 7th Mart, didn't you? A shiver ran up my spine. I tried covering up with an angry facade. Like I said, why do you know that? I was behind you, following you the whole time. I don't like it. It's so weird. Like, I've seen the anime, I read the manga for this, but this is still horrifying to me. What are you saying? I couldn't understand why she was saying she'd been following me all this time. That's because Rena was right behind Keiichi-kun's back the whole time. Like that night? That night I was absorbed in my phone conversation with Oishi-san. I didn't even sense her being there. Standing behind the door, behind me, standing there just like that. When Keiichi was picking out the noodles, I was watching the entire time. You picked out so many different flavors, didn't you? Then your mom got angry. If you were going to pick the expensive ones, then you should just pick one type, she said. Then Keiichi-kun picked out that big box of pork bone and ginger flavor that I love so much, didn't he? I like it too. Pork bone noodles. But I can never eat a whole big bowl myself. My brain was paralyzed, dulling my senses. It might have been a defense mechanism to diminish the fear I was feeling for non-traumatizing levels. With the fear being diminished, the fog enveloping my mind was cleared away. Then I could understand what Rena was saying and even started to put meaning behind her words. Even so, my fear hadn't subsided completely. It was like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, eyes closed so I didn't have to look down. It didn't actually solve any of the basic problems. I slowly took a step backwards, and as I withdrew, Rena advanced. I was so nervous that she would, like, go up to the screen. I don't know why I just had it in my brain. It made me uneasy. So, Keiichi-kun, can you open this? We can eat dinner together. I'm sure it's going to be delicious, so, okay? Rena's pale, slender fingers squirmed through the crack in the door one at a time, as if they had a mind of their own, rattling the chain. If she had unlatched the chain from the door, a feeling of terror would have just exploded within me. But Rena didn't do that. She was simply imploring me to remove the chain. She was doing her hardest to light the fuse to the powder keg in my heart, trying again and again. Clatter, clatter. But it doesn't light. It doesn't light. Open up. Or, open up, Keiichi-kun. Please go away. I beg you, please go away. How can you say something so mean, I wonder? Please go away. Please go away. Go away. The powder keg inside me finally went off. No smoldering, it just exploded. Oh, God. I tackled the door. The force of the door had knocked Rena momentarily off balance. I couldn't hesitate here. I grabbed onto the doorknob with both hands, planted my feet firmly, and pulled with all my might. That slamming sound I so desired didn't happen. Ugh, I feel a tiny, disturbing bit of resistance keeping the door from closing. Her hand was still there. And the source of that was Rena's fingers. Each of those fingers wriggling, squirming around like the tendrils of a carnivorous plant through the crack in the doorway. It hurts, Keiichi-kun. It hurts. Ugh. It wasn't a harsh shriek, but more of a yelp she was trying to keep back. Go away, go away, go away. I kept on pulling the door with all my might. I didn't even realize that if I didn't loosen my pull on the door, at least momentarily, Rena wouldn't be able to pull her fingers out, and that was why the door wasn't closing. It really hurts, Keiichi-kun. I'm sorry if I was messing around too much. Ugh. I didn't care one bit for her apology. No matter how much she apologized, it didn't change any of what she had done up until now. It didn't change anything. It hurts. I'm sorry. Go away, go away, go away. Rena couldn't leave even if she wanted to because I trapped her fingers. Bro, just open the door a little bit and let her go and just go to bed. Just go to sleep. Just sleep it off. Rena's white fingers had become deep red and were no longer even squirming. I'm sorry. Go away, go away, go away. I'm sorry. Rena's apologies were occasionally twisted with pain, but like a broken record, she was intent on repeating it over and over. Go away, go away, go away. Stop it. I pulled on the door even harder. Finally, Rena's fingers were somehow able to slip out from their imprisonment in the doorway. The moment that happened, the door closed soundly, and I could hear the thud of Rena falling on her butt on the other side. I locked the door immediately. I made a loud clunk, voicing my rejection to Rena. I'm sorry. Keiichi-kun, I'm sorry. Open up, Keiichi-kun. Rena leaned against the door, apologizing profusely and nothing else. After confirming that I was sufficiently sealed off from her, I trudged away from the entryway. On the other side, I could still hear Rena echoing her apology. I'm sorry. Those pitiful words, they would be forever seeking my forgiveness. I didn't feel bad about this at all. That wasn't out of any sort of malice. I felt a sort of hazy sense of relief that I was able to escape from Rena. Before, Miyana threatened me at his doorway, saying there was nothing she didn't know. And just now, at the same place, Rena told me the same thing. My feeble attempts to disguise the fact my parents weren't home had served no purpose from the start. I should have just pretended to be out and not even opened the door. My meager plans hadn't helped at all. In Hinamizawa, it was impossible to outwit them. Even though I was on the other side of the door, I wanted to get as far away from Rena as possible. 1 step, 2 steps. With each one, her sniveling apologies became more distant. I sprinted up the stairs and dove into my room. As you would expect, I was finally no longer able to hear Rena repeating her endless apology. Diving into my bed, I was startled by the hard lump I felt. There was something in my bed? Was it the bat? Oh, it was the receiver. I finally remembered. I was in the middle of a call with Oishi-san. Did he actually... Oh, not much time has passed, okay. Well, that's good. He's probably still online then. Looking at the clock, apparently not much time had passed since I went downstairs. Could it be that my clock had run out of batteries? I had talked with Rena for so long. How did almost no time pass? But the hand on the clock was ticking forward 1 second every second as usual. As I put the still warm receiver to my ear, time, which felt frozen, began moving once again. Hello, Oishi-san? Sorry to keep you waiting. No, not at all. I didn't wait that long. It became apparent that the amount of time that had passed between myself and Oishi-san was different. Over the phone, I could hear an energetic voice from a sports program or something. It drove home just how far away Oishi-san really was. Rena came just now. Did she come to play? I wasn't confident that I could coherently explain the situation to Oishi-san. I didn't need to right now. Right now, I needed to know about Rena. That's right. I was planning to ask Oishi-san more about Rena, but Rena's little visit had interrupted the conversation. What was true and what was false? I couldn't tell. The one thing I knew was the single grim reality that Rena was suspicious. I might be able to figure something out if I asked Oishi-san about her. Up until now, I had regretted it whenever I forced myself to ask about things that I was better off not knowing. But, looking at it that way, you could say I'd hit rock bottom. There was no possible way I could feel any more regret than I did right now. No, rather I wanted to know if there was anything beyond this I would regret more. Forget about tomorrow. It wasn't out of the realm of possibility for something to happen tonight. I wanted to know everything I could. I was absolutely not going to die like this. Not without knowing anything. I definitely won't. Regarding Rena Ryugu-san, I did a bit of digging. Yeah, well, it wasn't much. I understood that Oishi-san was talking in circles. A bit meant I dug so deep it'd be hard to discuss with you since you're her friend. I want to know everything from your research. I don't think you'll be very interested in what I have to say, though. Oishi-san. I spoke as calmly as possible to Oishi-san, who was continuing to avoid the issue. And then I said it. I think Rena Ryugu is suspicious. Even if the past incidents were from Oshiro-sama's curse, Rena Ryugu is involved. Do you have some sort of proof that makes you believe Rena-san is suspicious? The manner in which Oishi-san spoke became very firm. Do you have some sort of proof? That was him talking as a detective. I only have circumstantial evidence. I see. I could tell even over the phone how disappointed Oishi-san was. Pulling on the fishing line when he felt a bite, only to reel in the bait. Disappointed, but ready to cast the line out once more. That's how it seemed. Oishi-san, you can't do anything without physical proof, can you? What I meant was, you can't come and save me without proof. I stuck that barb in there. As Oishi-san loved roundabout ways of saying things, he understood me just fine. It's fine, my Baro-san. I'll protect you. That was not the least bit reassuring. Yeah, he's too far away, dude. Oishi-san was just using me to continue his investigation. I was just going to get killed, and my corpse would be an important piece of evidence. That was all I was to him. Whether I'm alive or dead may be of no concern to your investigation, but it's all over for me when I die. Oishi-san went silent on the other end of the line. That may have been too blunt, but I didn't care. All I needed to relay to Oishi-san was that I was currently in a very dangerous position. So please tell me about Rena. Satoshi transferred out. Not too far in the future, I'll probably also do what Rena called transferring out as well. But you won't be able to find my corpse. You haven't even been able to find Satoshi's body yet. Alright, Maiba-san, please calm down. I was already suppressing my agitation even without Oishi-san having to tell me. It wouldn't solve anything if I continued to scream about my mistrust in the police. It would seem that I could only depend on myself and the bat Satoshi left behind to protect myself. Then I at least wanted to know about what happened before Rena transferred schools. You're aware that this won't be very interesting, right? Oishi-san, realizing my resolve couldn't be swayed, finally caved. Right now, to me, there's nothing that I'll find uninteresting. Please. There are a few things I need you to agree to. Okay. Please keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? It might not be true? I don't understand what you mean. There isn't one main investigation for the mysterious chain of deaths in Hinamizawa. Each one is treated as its own individual case. Thus, Rena Ryugu has never been linked to any of the investigations. Basically, you see, this isn't an investigation of Rena done by the police. And is a personal inquiry, is what you're telling me. And this will make things a lot quicker since you understand. All of it is from either phone calls or meetings and interviews, so they aren't corroborated. I'm asking you to take this all with a grain of salt, is what I mean. Do we have an agreement? All of it is just from what you heard? Yes, my apologies. It's all my personal investigation, you see. That thing. Before, you said you saw Rena's chart, didn't you? I'm sure I heard you say that. Oishi-san paused for a moment on the other end of the line. I told you that too? Please pretend you didn't hear anything about that. I didn't care about Oishi-san having certain obligations and responsibilities. I also didn't care if there was no proof. Even if they were just rumors, there's no smoke without fire after all. Please tell me, Oishi-san. Understood. Oishi-san finally opened those tight lips of his. Alright, let's hear it. It seemed that Rena lived in Hinamizawa a long time ago. She had moved to Ibaraki Prefecture after she finished elementary school. Then, following that, right after transferring, the unfortunate incident with the breaking of the school windows happened. Then Rena confided to the doctor. It was Oishiro-sama. This was all that he knew. There isn't much difference between what I know and what you know, Maibara-san. Then what part did you investigate further? I didn't need to ask. It was the incident that happened just after she transferred. The incident Rena was responsible for and what she divulged to the doctor afterwards, correct? Yes. After you learned about that, you started suspecting Ren and the others, didn't you? Yes, I did suspect them. So they're the ones after all. No, that's not what I meant by suspect them. Question mark. Oishi-san was the type of person to say things with confidence, but these particular words were less than reassuring. Then, who did you suspect? That it was... Oishiro-sama. Uh-oh. Huh? That Oishiro-sama's curse really exists. Yeah, right, well... Oishi-san's laugh was quite dry, certainly not the kind that would make you want to join in. Oishi-san had resumed the conversation about the dubious circumstances behind Satoshi's disappearance, the course of events up until the start of delving into Rena's past. Just then there was thunder in the distance, and a heavy rain started pouring down. It came without warning, rain so heavy it felt like it could beat you down. I left the window in my room open and cracked to let the heat out. The violent wind danced into my room, making the curtains flap wildly. What is it? Nothing. It suddenly started raining heavily. Sorry, please continue. I got up while still on the phone and closed the window. I said at the beginning it was an incident, but because neither the school nor the victims filed charges, the police were never involved. So you see, those involved were very reluctant to talk, regardless of there being a victim who had one eye beaten so badly that it had permanent damage. Could have been the school or possibly some individual who made arrangements to keep this from going public. Also, the psychologist was very strict about their professional ethics. Hello? Maibara-san? Can you hear me? There was the figure of a person standing by the light near the mailbox this whole time. Even in this torrential rain, they didn't have an umbrella. They were unquestionably drenched from head to toe. In this shower, which more resembled a waterfall, droplets of water dripped down from her hair. Just standing there, both arms dangling at her side. In one hand was the stack of boxes wrapped in cloth. Her eyes focused on my room, focused on me as I was about to close the window. Her mouth was methodically repeating a chewing motion. It was as if she had something hard to chew in her mouth, with her cheeks puffing out. What could she be eating over there? How could it be that at this time I was more enthralled by Rena instead of the shocking developments being brought to light by Oishi-san? If it hadn't started raining, I wouldn't have gone to the window. Then I wouldn't have noticed Rena, nor would I have noticed that. Rena's mouth was moving in the same pattern. She wasn't eating something. She was repeating something. What was it? Was she repeating to me? What was she saying? And why was I right up against the window fixated on her? Hello? Maibara-san? Can you hear me? Hello? I'm sorry. Huh? Maibara-san? I'm sorry. 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 Hello? Maibara-san? What's the matter? Even in this torrential downpour, Rena was still apologizing. The other self inside me drew the curtain hastily with my right hand blocking my view of the outside. But even doing that, Rena's relentless apology still reached my ears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I forgive you for this, will you forgive me for that? Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. I'm sorry. 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 I was waiting for it to fill up the whole screen. Damn it. Why did I have to forgive her? I'm the one who wants to be forgiven. What part of me can't you forgive? I won't be killed. If you won't forgive me, then I won't forgive you either. I won't forgive. 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 I won't forgive. Maibara-san, if you can hear me, then please respond. Hello? You received new tips. Split personality at the 7th Mart. Let's do, we'll do them in order like we normally do. Alright, we'll start with split personality. I see it in movies quite often, but what is it exactly? Multiple personalities are thought to be escapism. Multiple personality disorder is a form of escape? Correct. The exact mechanism is not fully understood, but it's believed to be a type of defense for the brain to retain mental stability. Hypothetically, poor people imagining themselves as wealthy is a form of escapism, is it not? Is this also a form of multiple personality disorder? I wouldn't go that far, but broadly speaking, one could infer that. It's something that occurs in us all. Does a split personality occur when one cannot tell which is reality and which is the escape? That's difficult to say. There are some who agree with that and some who disagree. There is no consensus. Then is the occurrence of multiple personalities still an unknown phenomenon, something not fully comprehended in the psychiatric field? Unfortunately, that is the current state of things. We can only put our hope in future research. But it's sort of cool having a split personality. What kind of people get split personalities? Recent studies find that those who develop it, or rather those who are more susceptible to developing it, may be genetically predisposed or may have had abnormal mental development. Some say that childhood abuse increases the chances. Speaking of which, Person A here experienced abuse as a child, didn't he? How sad. Person A has 7 different personalities. Woof. Let's watch a video of him. God. Why'd I have to scare you like that, man? Right after these commercials. Ah, hate it so much. Stupid commercials. Even bothering me in this game. Get out of here. Alright, at the 7th mart. That's a lot of cup noodles. 7th mart was a bargain supermarket with food and alcohol. What's this, Keiichi? So many. There's no reason to get all the different kinds, is there? I flopped all the different colored cup noodle bowls into the cart. Cup noodles have gotten so elaborate recently, and there are a bunch of different types. I want to try each of them at least once. I knew it was pretty selfish of me, but I thought I'd at least give it a try. Keiichi, buy them in the big case, it's cheaper. Dad faltered. Well, I had a feeling it'd end up like this. Dad knew there was no point in him butting in. Then I'd only get to eat one kind. I'd get bored with it. I was resisting as a formality. I'd already given up inside and wasn't sure which case of noodles to get. If you can't pick, then Mommy will pick for you. You don't have to rush me. I quickly searched the case of noodles for what I want. Pork bone and ginger, large cup. Hey, Keiichi, can't you get a more normal one? If I let Mom pick, she'd err on the side of safety and get soy sauce or salt flavored. Ugh. Pork bone is good. I don't want a big bowl of tasteless stuff. I remembered insisting that the noodles I picked were the right kind. Pork bone noodles sound good. Stop with the creepiness, man. In this frozen memory in time, this encapsulated world, I didn't have the power to look around my surroundings. So, I did what I could and reached out with my hearing and vision, sharpening my senses to find the presence I overlooked. No matter how much I searched through my field of vision, I couldn't see Rena. I rewound the situation, searching, but of course I couldn't find her. Then, was she spying at me from my blind spot? I go through the sound and presences again, looking. I could sense the other customers. They're all mixed about, moving as they please. There was nobody looking over this way and no one trying to get behind me. Not here. Couldn't be here. Probably wasn't here. I would definitely notice if someone was right behind me, even when I wasn't on my guard. I smiled wearily at the thought of using a vague word like probably right before contradicting it with definitely. Then, I paused my mental replay as a chill ran down my spine. There was definitely a presence like a shadow behind me. That was a terror unlike any other. If a presence really had manifested behind me, I would definitely have turned around to check for it. But the world had moved on, and there was no way for me to turn around. While carrying that frightening shadow on my back, I was gleefully running around the store searching for a case of noodles. Running through the instant noodle section, bad-mouthing my mom. But there was that presence constantly at my back, sticking to me like a shadow. No way to see what it was. Realizing now after the fact was horrifying and repulsive. In that moment of time, I was running around gleefully, carrying that cardboard box, tip-tap. But listening to that moment again, I could hear footsteps other than mine going pit-pat with every step. Tip-tap, 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 pit-pat, 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 tip-tap, tip-tap, pit-pat, pit-pat, tip-tap, tip-tap, pit-pat, pit-pat. While I was running, the sound of those barefoot footsteps going pit-pat were right behind mine. Me running around gleefully in that closed-off moment in time. But I didn't hear it. No, I heard it. That's why I remembered it. I didn't think I had heard anything. That's why I didn't turn around. That is why I didn't turn around. In that moment, the pit-pat, those footsteps were following me the entire time. I couldn't run faster and escape. I couldn't run away any faster than I had ran at that time. I couldn't turn around. I hadn't turned around before, not once. Then I returned to my parents and started talking. The shadow-like presence was right at my back. Since I didn't move, the shadow didn't move. That's why it made no sound. That was all. At that time, I hadn't taken a single step while talking with my parents. I was just standing there. This was undeniable. And yet, I heard it. A pit-pat. That shouldn't be. If I took 3 steps, it followed 3 steps. Wasn't that the rule? There was no sound other than that. At that time, the entire world had gone dark. A sudden darkness. It was the end of my reflective journey. I was tired. I wanted to end it. Someone turned on the light. Except my body couldn't move. As if I was sewn into that moment in time. Pit-pat. My past self's hair stood on end. That's impossible. Now it's just breaking the rules. I haven't moved, so you shouldn't be moving either. I couldn't move, so you shouldn't be able to move either. Follow the rules. Pip-pat. Yet that sound echoed in the darkness once again. The hair on the back of my neck pricked up on end. It was so close that it was hard to tell whether it was touching the hair or not. Why couldn't I move, like how the presence was moving behind me? I quickly realized I could move. It's just I was scared and didn't want to. But now was the only time I could turn around. It was something unforgivable in this moment in time, but I needed to turn around immediately. As if my entire being was trying to force me to stop, it began to administer a pain like a needle being stuck into my every pore. Oof, that sounds very painful. I'll turn around. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. I'll turn around. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. A scream I was unable to vocalize. I turned around. At first, I couldn't understand the meaning of it. What? What is this? The situation in front of my eyes was like a mouth biting an apple and slurping the juice. The way you do with an apple. My mind was being eaten. What? Began to munch down, slurping the juices because it was like an apple. What is going on? Meaning what was in front of me was... God. What? In front of you was what? Come on, you can't end the tips there. I hate you, game. I hate you so much. I guess I'd be lying if I said I didn't get any sleep. I tried to stay awake all night, but there were definitely gaps in my memory. I guess I kept nodding off and jerking awake in a panic all night. I spent all night hugging the metal bat and sat on top of the futon I used to barricade my door. Waiting, watching just in case someone tried to break in through my window. If I left this spot, someone would break through the door, sending the futon flying and attack me. But if I stopped watching the window, someone would break through the glass and attack me. I tried telling myself I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't sleep. The thought of being so vulnerable scared the living daylights out of me. If sleep meant taking that risk, I didn't need it. It was so much better to just stay awake. At some point during the endless cycle of nodding off and jolting awake, light began to shine outside, but that was it. It wasn't so much the morning as it was just the sun simply having risen. I snuck a peek out through the curtains. Brenna was gone. I couldn't see her anywhere, no matter how hard I looked. Hopefully, man, that would have been weirder standing out there all night. Even though it was pretty weird stuff. I don't know. Finally, I could breathe a deep sigh of relief. The night was finally over. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired, but I didn't feel like sleeping at the moment. I still had time, but I need to make my own breakfast, so I'd better get started soon. Skipping school was also an option. With my mom gone, it'd be easy to play hooky. Honestly, I debated it. The risk involved in leaving my house was incalculable. So staying holed up in here was probably my safest option. But staying here wouldn't solve anything. Oishi-san wouldn't help me without cold, hard evidence. Neither he nor my parents. So, unless I found some sort of proof, these relentless nights would never end. I stretched my body, tilted my head back, and closed my eyes just like I did every morning. I regulated my breathing and regained my senses. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Let's go to school. Let's wait until they set their trap for me. But that didn't mean I was just going to twiddle my thumbs. I needed to avoid that trap and secure irrefutable evidence. Take note of the plates of any car that drives by. If I see someone suspicious, check their clothes and face. I wasn't just protecting myself. I was preparing myself to turn their attack against them and retaliate. The tension was similar to when two samurai were both aiming to slay each other with a single motion as they drew their katanas. I was not at a disadvantage. I'd have a chance to retaliate. I finally felt a bit of courage growing in my chest. All right, let's go to school. I tightened my grip on Satoshi's bat. He was the only partner I could count on. Satoshi, please lend me your strength, and entrust your dying regrets to me, since you were probably murdered. I'll make sure I dispel them. With renewed resolve, I checked the clock. It was still early. Of course, I was going to school by myself today. If I didn't want to run into Ren or Mion, I needed to leave now. The shattered fragments of the cupboard were still strewn all over the entryway. Right. I meant to clean that up last night, but never got around to it with the phone call and everything. If my parents came back and saw this while I was at school, I would never hear the end of it. Still, I'd be wasting time if I cleaned it up right now, and considering what would happen if I ran into Ren or Mion, it wouldn't be too late to clean up after I got back home. Making extra certain that the doors were locked, I left the house. My uniform was still covered in mud from yesterday, so I left it in the washer. Today I was going to go to school in a tracksuit. By wearing a different outfit this morning, my mind was forced to accept that today was different from yesterday. I had a hunch. Today might be the day I get killed. Oof, it's dark, man. Keep your guard up, Keiichi Maibara. The only one who gets to decide if today is my last is me. I spent the morning practicing my swing like it was my natural routine. After a while, Rena arrived at school. Our eyes met, but we said nothing. Rena said nothing about last night, as if it never happened. But I could see that those events were real by the wounds carved into her fingers. I just heard her telling Satsuko and the others that the bandages were from hurting herself in the kitchen. Though it wasn't like it bothered me. The details that Oishi-san shared about Rena's incident before her transfer played vividly in my mind. Now that I knew about it, I couldn't even dream of Rena as a cute, ideal girl. Kei-chan, I see you're still aiming for the Nationals. It was Mion. I had already sensed her approach, so I wasn't that surprised. Oh, Mion, if you understand, then leave me alone. I'm busy practicing. Gave her a curt reply without my usual jokes. Then I gave the bat an even larger swing. Tacitly? Keeping Mion from getting any closer. Hey, Kei-chan, take it easy. I think Mion got the message, but she still urged me to give it a rest. Homerun's not that far off, is it? Just let me finish practicing. I swung the bat even harder as a sign of my refusal. Kei-chan, when did you get into baseball? Just recently. Recently? You mean yesterday? Don't ask if you already know. Oh dear. That's a very unsportsmanlike reply. You're distracting me. Go away. I ignored Mion and kept swinging. Normally she'd get mad or bored and leave if someone gave her the cold shoulder like this. But Mion just stood there, waiting patiently for me to stop swinging. I didn't sense any hostility, but we were at school in plain view. I doubt she'd suddenly attack me here. Or was that too naive? Still, I was starting to get tired. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to take a break and hear her out. You need me for something, right? What is it? Sweat poured from me as I stopped swinging. I noticed my shoulders were heaving as I breathed. I cursed my lack of exercise. At this rate, I might not be able to move as needed when the time came. I should probably keep practicing my swings to build stamina in addition to the excuse for carrying the bat around with me. Well, it's nothing important. If you're tired, I can ask again later. Now is fine. I'm only dealing with you right now because I judged the situation to be safe. Talking to you alone and away from others? That's out of the question. Well, Mion was uncharacteristically trying to choose her words. But unlike Oishi-san, it didn't look like she was going to talk about something I'd rather not hear. Mion was puzzled, trying to find the right thing to say. But then she gave a hearty laugh to break herself out of that mire. Ah ha ha ha! This old man's just no good at this stuff. Having a poor vocabulary hurts. What's this all of a sudden? If you have something to say, just say it. Stop it. Stop that swinging. She got straight to the point. Her request was so frank I didn't understand it for a moment. I had already stopped swinging to listen to her, hadn't I? I just stopped, didn't I? That's not what I meant. I want today to be the last day you swing that bat. I'm sorry. It took me some time to understand what she was asking for. What's wrong with swinging a bat? Why? It's none of your business, is it? I'm not bothering anyone, am I? You are. Mion said it flat out. This didn't make any sense, and that was really irritating. When did I bother anybody? Ugh. Mion was at a loss for words, but she finally made up her mind and spoke, though she stuttered as she said it. Because, Kei-chan, that's someone else's bat. You shouldn't borrow it without permission. It was left behind by a student who transferred, right? I'm just borrowing it until he comes back for it. Huh? Yeah, he transferred. Mion grew uncharacteristically flustered. That made it all too clear that this transfer was a lie. But strange, isn't it? Where the older brother transferred by himself, while his little sister stayed behind. Mion couldn't hide her reaction as my words shook her up. Kei-chan, you knew? Satoshi Hojo. Satsuko's older brother, right? The one demoned away last year. Unable to respond to that, Mion fell silent. Rena asked me the same thing. Why did you start swinging that bat? She told me Satoshi did the same thing, practicing his swings, right before he went missing. So, is this some kind of omen for Oishiro-sama's curse? Shh. Mion panicked and looked around. Please, Kei-chan, don't mention Oishiro-sama so recklessly. I don't believe in him, but the others very much do. Rena especially. Dangerously so? Anyway, you're scaring everyone. If you're just fooling around, then stop it. You have to stop acting like Satoshi. I was one who was scared. Who do I have to thank for taking up this bat in the first place? But it still unsettled me knowing that my actions were overlapping with Satoshi's. It'd be one thing if someone suggested it, but I thought I was making my own decisions. I'll say this now. I don't know anything about Satoshi. After all, you didn't tell me anything about him. We didn't mean to hide it. You were hiding the incidents that happen every year, weren't you? That's because we didn't want to, You didn't want to scare me? That's your reason for leaving me out? No, we didn't mean to. Mian, I asked you directly if something had happened at the dam, didn't I? And you told me nothing happened. When someone was dismembered and murdered. You lied to me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lie to you. Friends don't hide things from each other, right? Some Stranger Things quotes right now. Isn't that right? Then you all aren't my friends. Kei-chan, Mian looked helpless and flustered. Was I imagining the tears in her eyes? I never could have imagined Mian acting like this. Oh, by the way, those get well mochi you brought the other day, they were good. I thought I was going to bleed. Who did it? You or Rena? Me. She admitted it so easily. I couldn't help but be surprised how easy that was. You could have killed me. How could you do that to a friend? But it was just a little prank. Mian gave me a wry smile mixed with confusion, causing even more anger to well up inside me. You think that was a prank? I grabbed Mian by the collar and lifted her up. That was the same as putting Tabasco sauce in a piece of mochi. It was a needle, a sewing needle. If I had swallowed that and it lodged in my throat, what did she think would happen? Mian's face froze as her body rattled in fear. This wasn't the Mian Sonozaki I knew anymore. Anyways, you're not my friend. There's no reason for me to listen to someone who's not my friend. So just leave me alone for a while. Got it? Mian wasn't replying anymore. It won't be that easy to erase me, you know. The cops have been onto you from the start, so don't think you can make me disappear like you did Satoshi. I said it clearly. This was my declaration of war. I think you guys are suspects in previous incidents, too. I also know you spent a lot of time with cops ever since the anti-dam movement. Don't think you can hide it from me. Got that? How did you know? Mian stood there with a dumbstruck look on her face. That was when I heard the principal ringing the bell for school. It was time for morning homeroom. Let's go. The class representative needs to be there, right? At that moment, for the first time, I realized Mian was sobbing as tears ran down her cheeks. That's so sad. You're so mean, Kei-chan. I wanted to console her, but I shut my mouth. I had no need to feel guilty. I'm going. Don't be late for homeroom. I left Mian, still shaking as I turned around to head for the entrance. I had no idea how troubling it was to make a girl cry. Behind my back, I could hear her muttering. It was a faint mutter as she was speaking to herself. So that's how it is. Huh? She wasn't saying it to anyone. It was Mian talking to herself. But it was a sobbing voice that had a kind of giddy, cursing tone. I inadvertently stopped and turned back towards her. So it was that bastard. He leaked it all to Kei-chan. She balled up her fists as her tears continued to rain down. She glared at a spot at the ground with a terrifying yet smiling face, cursing. A chill ran down my spine from that demonic expression. This transformation, Mian's transformation, was different from Rena's. I should have killed him back then. He forgot the mercy I showed him just because he was going to retire this year. Retiring this year? Was she talking about Oishi-san? Damn it. Damn it. I'm going to kill that damn old man. It felt like the air itself had begun distorting. With Mian at the center, the world had begun to twist and spiral, bending, whirling. This was the first time I'd experienced such a visage. Rise. Oh man, this is like, it's sad and horrifying at the same time. Rise, attention. Mian made up an excuse for her red eyes by saying there was something wrong with her contacts. After that, neither Rena nor Mian spoke to me for the rest of the day. Neither Satsuko nor Rika-chan looked me in the eye. Strangely, I didn't feel hurt. Everything had just went back to the way it was. The months since I transferred in had been almost too much fun. That was all. School was supposed to be something like this to begin with. I should have disliked that feeling. But today it felt oddly refreshing. The bell rung, sounding the end of the monotonous school day, which had felt so tense yet so dull. Since it would cause a lot of unpleasant memories if they asked me to join into the club activities, I promptly started preparing to go home even without even looking at them. I stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag, wrapped my hand around Satoshi's now familiar bat, and began heading towards the entrance. I was assailed by both the exhausting relief that nothing had happened today and the tiring possibility of the same thing repeating tomorrow. But deep down inside me, far beneath in the recesses of my heart, achingly, I knew this would be the last day of this cycle. I couldn't tell how the ending would be, whether it would end as I wished it to end, or if it would end as I hoped it wouldn't. Regardless, in my current state, there was something more important than how things would end. There was something I wanted to know. Why did I have to be killed? How did it come to this? Why? For what purpose? This sunlight was relentless. The sun, the heat, even the air. They wouldn't give me my answers. Or could it be that the cries of the Higurashi were desperately trying to tell me something? Somewhere mixed in with their shrieks, Tamataki-san and Satoshi were also probably trying to tell me something. I simply haven't been able to realize it yet. When I do realize it, I wonder if I'll be amongst the Higurashi fruitlessly crying to the next victim. Glancing down at my feet, I saw Higurashi on its back, spasming weakly. Wee bwee, bwee. There's still much of the summer left, yet this one was already chirping its last song. I couldn't tell what it was saying, no matter how hard I listened. But I had to try. I had to try to listen to what it was desperately trying to tell me. At that moment, the shrills of the Higurashi ceased all at once, as if they had huddled together, fearing that the person who brought them to their dreadful fate had arrived. There was no mistaking it. A presence was approaching. The sounds of footsteps was almost non-existent. If the Higurashi hadn't warned me by ending their chirping, I wouldn't have noticed. My exhaustion left me in a heartbeat. In its place was a rush of adrenaline that sharpened all of my senses. I was just barely able to hold back that creeping, suffocating feeling of horror. It wasn't something I could hold back for long, but in this moment when I needed to be razor sharp, I was able to retain my composure. I wasn't going to shout like I did yesterday. I hid myself calmly amongst the trees, waiting for my pursuer's shadow. Could I get them to pass by me? No, since I was able to hear their footsteps, they were probably also able to hear mine. They might have already been able to tell that I had hidden myself and was holding my breath. The person tailing me, was it Rena, just like yesterday? If it was Rena, I wouldn't hold back. I could just yell at her and make her go ahead like yesterday. If it wasn't Rena, it would depend on how they acted, I guess. The footsteps ambled closer. I swallowed, wiped my clammy hands on my pants, and readjusted the grip on the bat. I could tell that the fear that I had beaten back once was now waiting for another opening to come at me. Who could it be? I peeked out from behind the tree at the person following me. Oh, there she is. My imagination hadn't led me astray. It was Rena. There was a bit of relief as I realized it was someone I knew. That feeling left me in an instant. This wasn't the same Rena that I knew. Her eyes were dark and lifeless, but her mouth appeared as if it was carved into a crescent. Yes, it looked like she was grinning slightly. This looks hard. Oh god, okay. And in her right hand was an axe. Cool. I hid myself behind the tree once again and recalled the unbelievable sight I just saw. What was that just now? The embodiment of terror laid bare. Baseball, practicing my swing, there were tons of excuses for me carrying a bat. But for that axe, there was no excuse for that. An axe just like that? Keiichi-kun, are you playing hide and seek, I wonder? My heart was pounding, hard enough that I had trouble breathing. What little composure I had been able to hold on to was now crushed. In its place, cold sweat gushed forth, covering my entire body, letting me know precisely what kind of emotion had taken hold. Not good, not good, not good. I wasn't able to hide myself completely. She already knew I was here. Were you trying to scare me, I wonder? I decided that it would be better to reveal myself now, since there was still space between us, than to allow Rena to come any closer. I adjusted my grip on the bat again, readied myself mentally, and stepped out from behind the tree. I found you, Keiichi-kun. Dude, I actually remember that from like the anime and everything. It's like Keiichi-kun Mitsuke or something like that. I don't know the actual Japanese language for it because I don't know Japanese, sadly. I want to learn one day. But it's like Keiichi-kun Mitsuke or something. She has a really weird, creepy face. That's one of the scenes from the original show. It just like really stuck with me. Rena was pleased as she found me, eliciting a mysterious giggle. I don't want to keep going with this, man. This is horrifying. Her mouth was smiling, but her eyes told me she was displeased by the fact that I'd been hiding. Those eyes, they were just so empty. My legs began to quiver. Not good. In the pit of my stomach, some sort of vicious hot and cold substance began spreading around. If I allowed it, that substance would slip into my bloodstream and undoubtedly freeze all the organs in my body. What are you talking about, bro? Not good, not good. I'll be devoured by Rena at this rate. Strike back. Don't lose. But what is it? I blustered, hiding behind my bravado. But Rena didn't flinch one bit. Just the same as Keiichi-kun. I'm heading home. Then what about that axe? Then what about that bat you're holding? I'm practicing my swing. Then I'm treasure hunting. Rena gave a flippant explanation as to why she had such a fearsome weapon. Treasure hunting? At the treasure mountain near the dam site, I found a new cute thing, so I need this to dig it out. How could I believe that? You wouldn't believe it, would you? Oh, why are you laughing? Rena's laugh was obviously very strange. I'd seen Rena's transformation many times before, but the one today was completely different, like her mischievous tone and the shrewd glint in her eyes. It wasn't something that roundabout. I'm not sure what to say. It was just so obvious. Wait, Keiichi-kun. Oh god, it's so creepy. Rena didn't stop walking, even as she let out that eerie laugh. Whenever Rena got too close to me, I would scurry away and turn back towards her. This cycle repeated over and over. No matter how you looked at it, I was being chased by Rena and was trying to escape. Don't follow me. I can't do that. My house is this way, after all. Oh, the laughter, man. Sorry. It's like some Friday the 13th stuff. Just the way he's wording, like, they're doing a chase, but she's basically just like walking and keeping up with him. That's some Jason Voorhees stuff right there. When I met with Ren on this road yesterday, she was cowed and trembled as she followed my commands. But today was different. Ren didn't show a hint of trepidation. Actually, wasn't I the one who was cowering? If the way home for Rena and me was the same, that's fine. I'd just change my route. That'd work out, wouldn't it? I turned onto a side street I'd never been down and knew little about. But Rena saw me do that and followed me while laughing. Why? Why? Aren't you going home? Then just go home down the street you normally do. Why would you follow me down this weird little side road? Those thoughts screamed in my head, eventually spilling out of my mouth. Why are you following me? The tone of my voice was already tinged with terror. Because I want to talk to Keiichi-kun. Keiichi-kun wants to talk to Rena too, doesn't he? Doesn't he? I don't want to talk about anything with you. That's a lie, isn't it? There's something you want to ask me about, isn't there? Not at all. I have nothing to talk to you about. That's a lie, isn't it? It's not a lie. Lies. Oh god, she does it so many times in this. Rena's scream echoed, startling some nearby birds into flight. I cringed in fear. The only other thing I could do was increase my pace. Let's talk, Keiichi-kun. Talk. Talk. Oh my god. Why was I running down this unfamiliar deserted street? Doesn't Keiichi-kun have something he's worried about? Nothing at all. I'm not worried about anything. Lies. For some reason, man, this is so much more horrifying than even in the anime when they do the creepy laugh, because it's just like, oh, just reading out loud, or just reading it, it just feels so much more unnatural. Even though I was running, even though Rena was walking, why wasn't I getting any farther away? This is Friday the 13th. I know. I really do know. You're scared, aren't you, Keiichi-kun? I'm not scared. I'm not scared of anything. Lies. I hate it. My breathing grew heavy and it felt like my legs were giving out from beneath me. Rena wasn't even breaking a sweat. I'll listen. This time I'll listen. I had no idea what she was talking about or what exactly she wanted to do. This time I'll listen. It'll be different from the time with Satoshi-kun. When she said Satoshi's name, I turned back for a moment. But even as I did that, Rena was still advancing. I couldn't afford to stop. Satoshi-kun was worried too. It looked like he was having such a hard time. But I didn't listen. I was so sad. Where did the street connect to? All these twists and turns, ups and downs. It was hard to believe that this was even remotely in the direction towards my house. My sense of direction had long since gone out the window. I really regretted it when Satoshi-kun transferred out. I thought that if I had listened, he may not have transferred out. I really regretted that. The road led me deeper into the forest. Wasn't I getting farther away from the village the more I ran? I lost more and more of my composure the more I thought about it. But despite this realization, my inner self was still disturbingly calm. So you see, I vowed that if there was someone struggling like Satoshi-kun did, I'd save them. I don't want to see anyone transfer out again. Damn it. What does transfer even mean? I won't let you transfer me. I won't end up the same as Satoshi. Come on, Keiichi-kun, talk to me. I'll be able to understand you, Keiichi-kun. I'm your ally. I started wheezing out of breath. My lungs were so hot that they felt like they were going to explode, and my heart was beating as hard as it possibly could. And this whole time, Ren's just been, like, slowly, casually walking and following him. That's the amazing part. I should have practiced running instead of my swing. I couldn't even afford to scoff at that stupid thought. If Keiichi-kun doesn't have anything to worry about, he'll go back to normal. Everyone will be back to being friends, and we can enjoy club activities again. Next time, we'll team up and beat Mi-chan. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, how much fun that would be. Rena couldn't even imagine how much I'd wished I could turn back the clock on these past few days. You could be nice to me again, too. I want to go searching for treasure again. This time I'll prepare a nice lunch. Actually, we could just go right now. Let's go up to the dam site together. I'll show you the cute thing I just found. I'm sure you'll like it, too. My footsteps made pathetic flapping sounds as my legs wobbled and faltered. Hot on my heels, Rena's steps were sharply breaking twigs underfoot. I had to accept it. I was on the run, being chased by Rena. If she caught me, it was all over. I realized it instinctively. I couldn't even begin to think of what the end would entail. Just that if I was caught, it was all over. That's all I knew. It didn't matter how it was going to end. I wouldn't let it end. Not without knowing anything, not yet. That momentary lapse was all it took. Of all the things that could have happened, my knees buckled underneath me and I crumbled towards the ground. I tried to stand frantically, urging my legs to respond. I used my bat as a makeshift cane to prop myself up, but Rena was already standing right in front of me. She could teleport now, too. That's horrifying. Compared to me, out of breath and utterly exhausted, Rena was so cool and composed that she could have froze the air around her. She wasn't breathing hard at all. Rather, I couldn't even sense if her heart was beating. Are you afraid of something, I wonder? It's not like you to tremble, Keiichi-kun. Every time she laughs, I feel like it gets longer. And that's freaking me out. Her expression looked almost affectionate. Those soulless eyes, that mask of affection. As she admonished me for trembling, Rena's hands deftly slipped over her head. The blur of arms as they moved made me feel as if I was staring at the godliness of the thousand-armed Buddha. What? Then as both of her hands met above her head, the axe that she held came into focus. I stared up at it in disbelief. It was all I could do. To tell me, what happened to Satoshi? Rena stayed like that with the axe raised above her head and solemnly opened her mouth. It was as if she was expressing a farewell to a friend she was never to see again. That cruel scenario resided somewhere in her actions. I told you. Satoshi-kun transferred. Out. Enough of that transfer crap. It means demoned away, doesn't it? Doesn't it? You can tell me now, can't you? Who made Satoshi disappear? Was it you, Mion, or someone in the village? Answer me. I became frantic the more I screamed, but Rena did nothing but maintain the smile frozen on her face. I have no idea what Keiichi-kun is talking about. I'll say it in a way so you do. Who is the perpetrator of this chain of mysterious deaths? You seem to be confused, Keiichi-kun. What? There is no human perpetrator. Everything is by Oyashiro-sama's will. Isn't Oyashiro-sama's curse just superstition? You believe in that too? It's not about believing or not. Oyashiro-sama exists. Period. Ren's gaze grew even more gelid. I gotta look that up and see what that means later. The ferocity of her stare was so intense, not allowing me to question anything. There's just no way that something like Oyashiro-sama could exist. You don't believe in Oyashiro-sama? That there's no way I could believe it. There's no way it could exist. It exists. Oyashiro-sama exists. Keiichi-kun should have felt it personally. I never felt something like that. Keiichi-kun, haven't you felt someone apologizing to you before? Constantly, on top of that? All noise from the outside world disappeared. Only Rena's voice resounded, loudly and terribly. You see, until you forgive them, they'll always be with you. At school, at home, at your bedside. I couldn't understand what Rena was saying. It came to me, too. Oishiro-sama did. That's why I transferred and came back to Hinamizawa. I don't understand. What does transfer even mean? What was Rena saying? That's a creepy smile. Hasn't Oyashiro-sama come to you as well, Keiichi-kun? I'm probably the only one he can confide in. I won't let you transfer out, okay? Rena's demented laughter clanged around inside my head. Was Rena saying Oishiro-sama came to her as well? That's right. Last night I had heard about that when I asked about Rena. Please keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? Oishi-san began speaking. Neither the victims nor the school filed a complaint, so there's no preliminary report. Basically, the police hadn't intervened in this matter. So all of these details are just what I heard from those involved. Meaning it's not that credible. You said there were victims. Didn't Rena just break all the windows? No, Ren and Ryugo had attacked 3 boys, using a metal bat. 2 of them made it out with only bruises, but the other one had been injured so badly that one of his eyes was permanently damaged. But wouldn't that be considered assault? Shouldn't the police have arrested her? For whatever reason, the victim never pressed charges. There was no report to the police, so they were beaten with a bat and suffered significant injuries. Normally there would be a criminal investigation, but why didn't they press charges? I tried asking the... oh god, I can't even talk. I'm like all over the place, man. This is getting so intense. I tried asking the 3 male victims for their side of the story, but they all were reluctant. It's hard to say, but they were all afraid, even after she had transferred schools. Oishi-san, could you summarize it starting from the beginning? Rena hit people while she broke the windows, or was it she started breaking the windows after she got bored of hitting people? They sounded similar, but the meanings were drastically different. On an undisclosed date, Ren and Ryuga was conversing with 3 male students, a close friend of hers, near the pool storage shed. Who were those 3? I can't reveal their names, but they were close to Ren and Ryuga, and it seems they were a group of friends. She was the lone girl in their group. So it wasn't that strange that the 4 of them were together. So what happened? I don't know the reason why. She took the baseball team's bat that was in the pool storage shed and beat the 3 of them down, one after the other. What? There were no witnesses. This was an account pieced together by the information given at the time of the incident. One day after school, Ren and 3 male students were at the pool storage shed talking together. They weren't seeking help, rather, they usually meet up there. It appears it became a heated discussion. At that time, Ren underwent a change. The change was so abrupt that the 3 of them didn't comprehend what was happening. Oh. All the random noises that pop up, man. Then, taking the metal bat, she attacked her friends, one after the other. Oh. That's when the dude's eye just kind of like blit. Leaving her friends covered in blood with gashes on their heads, she made her way towards the school building. She just went ham, dude. Then she broke the glass windows one after the other. A few minutes later, a teacher appeared on scene and subdued her. What was this change Rena underwent? What matches up in the statements from the 3 was a sudden change. The point that there was a transformation. Transformation? I also could recall Rena's transformation. I'd seen that change many times before. It was so different from the usual Rena that I couldn't help but believe it was someone else who looked like Rena. That transformation they're talking about, had it happened before? No, there was nothing like that. As far as I could find out, in her medical history and past, there was nothing like that. Does that happen often, where people change suddenly like Rena did? Of course it does. There are plenty of psychological phenomena that could cause something like that. Then, you're saying there was a dormant element in Rena that caused that transformation? I cannot say that for certain, but according to the statements of her friends, it's hard to believe she had such a side to her. I know, I forgot when it was. I don't remember if it was the last part or the part before that. One of the tips was like all about bipolar disorder and everything, and that's such a, it's such an impact on your mental state. Sometimes it can just literally have you flip like that. So that's probably what connects to this part of the, or that tip probably connects to like this part of the story, kind of, because it's all about, Rena mainly and her flipping from like, evil crazy to chill and fun. I don't know. Kind, caring, and adorable. Even before she transferred here, she was probably pretty popular in school like she was now. That girl transforming suddenly and assaulting them with a bat. Who could imagine such a thing? Nobody could have seen it coming. I myself sometimes believe that I was mistaken for thinking that was Rena, even now. Then, what happened after that? There was a hospital right across from the school, so 3 of them were carried in and treated quickly. What about Rena? What about the police? Wasn't there a criminal investigation? You see, the police can't get involved unless they are called. Even though one was badly injured with permanent damage? Why didn't they file charges? That's what caught my attention as well. Either some threat or pressure was placed on them, or they had a reason they couldn't file charges even if they wanted to. We're talking about you after all. Of course you looked into it, didn't you? Well, yeah, but I told you at the beginning, didn't I? That the victims were all very reluctant to talk. They didn't want to touch on the matter, or rather, they didn't want to be involved. Reluctant to talk. Didn't want to touch it. Didn't want to be involved. It resembled the villagers here in Oishiro-sama's curse. Did the teacher at that school tell you anything? A school's hallowed ground. You could say they tend to keep scandals under wraps. I didn't have a search warrant, so I had to tread lightly, you see. Then there was no comment from the school. No. They denied the incident even happened. That's weird, man. Why would they do that? It's just 3 male students were carried in for blunt force trauma that day. That's all there was in the hospital records. The victims didn't speak. The school denied it happened. Then you don't know anything at all. Yeah. I know nothing other than the incident itself had taken place. The victims also wish this incident to be kept from the public. So if you and I both forget about it, Maibara-san, then this incident will probably just fade away. For a brief period, we sat in silence. At first glance, it looked like a simple assault case. That was just the tip of the iceberg. The deaths were obscured by roiling waves, sinking quietly into the void, as if it never existed to begin with. After that, she was suspended by the school, and during that time, she underwent psychiatric counseling. Did you hear anything from that doctor? Again, they're very professional in regards to their ethics, or at least very tight-lipped. Nothing even after you showed them your badge? I was told to get a warrant. The badge itself is no legally binding authority, after all. Then how did you know that Rena confessed it was Oishiro-sama who did it? There was a nurse I asked in that department. She agreed to help me just from showing her my badge. Then, what did she say? Turns out the nurse hadn't heard everything. Apparently, all that she remembered was what she overheard from inside the room. The nurse said that at the time, Rena Ryuga was very calm and mild-mannered. It was more like she was confessing her sins at church than a counseling session. She spoke with her mother there for some of it. I'm assuming it's some of it. But partway through, her mother was asked to leave, so it became a private counseling session between just the doctor and Rena for a while. The part with Oishiro-sama, when did that pop up? Partway through, she screamed the name suddenly. That startled the nurse, and that's why she started listening in. It was Oishiro-sama. Rena suddenly shouted that. I had no idea what was said before that, so I had no idea what the meaning behind it could have been. The doctor calmly and collectedly asked Rena to have a seat. What is this Oishiro-sama you speak of? Gently, ever so gently, the fundamentals of counseling were believing what you were told. Whoever abandons Hinamizawa will be hunted down by Oishiro-sama, and they finally gotten to me. It's the town you lived in before you moved here, isn't that right, Ryugu-san? I didn't want to move, but because of my mom and dad's circumstances, we had to. But Oishiro-sama wouldn't allow it. Ryugu-san must have lots of friends in Hinamizawa. Even now, you must be missing them dearly, don't you think? I want to go back. Back to Hinamizawa. No, it's not that I want to go back. I have to go back. I should have gone back much sooner. But now it's too late. Oishiro-sama has come. Oishiro-sama is the name of the god in Hinamizawa, isn't that right? Everyone knows it's Hinamizawa's guardian deity. And if you ever try abandoning Hinamizawa by leaving, you'll incur his wrath. You had me moved quite a while ago, didn't you? Then it was just now that this god has arrived, is what you're saying? You might not believe me, but Oishiro-sama exists. The nurse was then asked by another nurse to do something and left the room. That was all she remembered. It's intense, man. That it was Oishiro-sama's doing, right? I do believe there is that kind of superstition in Hinamizawa, that if you leave the village, then you incur Oishiro-sama's wrath. You should be familiar with this part, Maibara-san. I knew very well what those scorned by the village incurred. To hinder the dam construction project, they cursed the construction foreman to his death. Then the following year, Satoko's parents, supporters, and leading advocates for the dam were cursed to their death. But this was the first time I've heard of the curse incurring by leaving the village. This is my first time hearing that. I can understand outside threats being cursed by a village, but why also villagers who leave? Normally, people who leave villages aren't supposed to be cursed, right? I know it's a bit strange to say it, but I could see it as a rule that the people who come in are the ones who would be cursed. Far from Jupiter, far from his slender, curses weren't something to chase after people that leave, were they? Oishi-san pondered for a bit over on the other end of the receiver, and then began speaking again. Well, I told you of long ago when Hinamizawa was called Onikakushi, didn't I? I recalled hearing that. Long ago, Hinamizawa was feared and respected as a village of ogres. The villagers at the foot of the mountains worshipped the ogres, so Onikakushi was hallowed ground that you could never enter. It came to be said that if you entered carelessly, you were cursed by Oishiro-sama. Those who set foot in Onikakushi, in other words, Hinamizawa, would be cursed. I could understand that. I know that. But for leaving to also be no good, that's also the ogres, you see. They were being strictly watched by Oishiro-sama so they would not enter into our world. In other words, Oishiro-sama probably restricted interaction between Onikakushi and the rest of the world. I see. I finally understood what sort of thing Oishiro-sama was. So basically, Oishiro-sama is more like a warden than a protectorate deity, I guess. Trying to keep this place isolated from the rest of the world? I guess that's how it would seem. I'm sorry, I don't know very much myself. This is mostly what was passed on to me from my grandmother. I can understand it a bit better if it was like that. Those who came to Hinamizawa would be cursed, and those who tried to leave would also be cursed. So, because Rena originally lived in Hinamizawa and moved away, she fulfilled the requirements for being cursed. So that means because Rena moved away against its wishes, she was cursed by Oishiro-sama. Is that what it adds up to? In short, that seems to be what it points to, I guess. As a matter of fact, soon afterwards, they did move back to Hinamizawa after all. Those who abandoned Hinamizawa and left were cursed. But then, why only Rena? Shouldn't Rena's parents also have been guilty of the same transgression by moving away and have been cursed? Also, in this day and age in Japan, shouldn't there be a lot of people coming and going? If every single one of them was cursed, then it'd be insane. But in reality, it wasn't that big of a deal at all. At most, there'd be one person dying and one disappearing on the day of the Watanagashi. I don't like saying at most, though. Well, anyways, there's a lot I still don't know. Even if it was Oishiro-sama's curse, it doesn't add up as to why our classmates, the victims who were beaten with a metal bat, wouldn't press charges. You don't think the victims were cowering because they believed that a terrible curse had befallen them, do you? They might have been, man. I don't know. Of course they didn't want to believe it. But more importantly, I had just realized something else. There was another bizarre connection that Rena made between Oishiro-sama's curse and metal bats. Satoshi fell victim to Oishiro-sama's curse and went missing. I had recently learned that Satoshi had also become infatuated with the metal bat right before he disappeared, just like me. Then Rena as well. She was affected by Oishiro-sama's curse. She confessed that much to the doctor. And the weapon she had used at the time of that horrendous act was, again, a metal bat. And finally, me. I'd encountered various things that were inexplicable, and now I was holding onto a metal bat. I was shocked when I learned that Satoshi did the same thing. It couldn't be. Had the same thing happened to Rena. But there was one critical difference between her and Satoshi's case. That being, Satoshi went missing after falling victim to the curse, but Rena was still here. Both then had fallen victim to Oishiro-sama's curse, yet they were met with different endings. And finally, me. I couldn't call it a coincidence anymore. Rena, Satoshi, and finally, me. Could it be that I really was under Oishiro-sama's curse right now? No, more importantly than that, what should I do now? Satoshi had been demoned away, vanishing without a trace. Rena was fine. Fine? Rena had undergone a change. I can only believe that there was something that wasn't Rena residing within her. And here right now, it was standing before me. Rena, please tell me. What will happen to me? Rena stood imposingly, not answering. Satoshi disappeared. But Rena didn't disappear. So what will happen to me? I hate it. I had never heard such an unpleasant laugh before. Well, hey, thanks for insulting my laugh, Dick. I don't know how to, like, read an insane laugh like that without probably scaring everybody who lives near me. It'd become akin to the sound of her breathing. It was no longer a voice or an expression or a feeling. Don't worry. I'll save you. Rena took one step forward, still holding the axe high above her head. Now then. One step closer, Rena's face spread out to fill my vision. Speak. One step closer. One step closer, yeah, I'm about to break. Bark action, alright, we're good here. I'm trying to do that to not be scared. Rena's nose was close enough to touch mine, and was still pushing closer. There's something you want to say, isn't there? I'll listen. I'll save you, okay? Speak, okay? Speak, okay? It's like she's talking to a dog. I slumped down, landing squarely on my butt. It wasn't for some pathetic reason. It was all I could do to get as far away from Rena. No. Oh no. Oh no. It's got filled the whole screen. Okay, good. I hate that it keeps getting longer and longer and longer. I don't like it. I I had the gut feeling that I couldn't let her laughter end. Because when that laughing ended, the moment I picked up on that feeling, my body moved by instinct. I sprang to my feet so fast that even I couldn't believe it and pushed Rena away with both hands. Ren was as light as a feather. Thrown about by the unbalanced weight of the axe, she was sent backwards as if she had been carrying off by the wind. After confirming that out of the corner of my eye, I dashed off at full speed. I was a perfect picture of fleeing like a greased pig. Get away from Rena. Run away. Survive. I couldn't think of anything other than this. While I was running, I remembered I'd been holding onto a bat the entire time. Such a worthless weapon. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten about this weapon at such an important time. I sped even further down the winding path. I didn't even feel myself gasping for breath or my legs getting heavy. My body understood it as well. If I didn't run away from here, I wouldn't live. I could hear the laughter of that simulacrum of Rena coming from behind me. It rang through the trees and in my head and slowly chiseled away at my sanity. The grove of trees thinned out and my field of vision suddenly expanding. Where was this? For a moment I was bewildered by the scenery I felt I knew but couldn't quite remember. I quickly realized it was the dam site. The fact that I dashed madly and ended up in a place like this gave me a bad feeling, like I was following someone's scripted plot. I had a good view of my surroundings, but I didn't see a single soul here. This was a terrible spot for someone on the run, but there was no better place for an attacker. My heart was already on the verge of bursting. The muscles in my legs were screaming, but I didn't care. If I stopped here, then they might not even be able to scream for much longer. Even still, I glanced back, looking for an excuse to rest. Rena wasn't there. Instead, I saw 2 villagers walking around. I breathed a sigh of relief that wasn't Rena, but a third party. Except the voice inside me rang the alarm once again. The villagers who were walking around weren't suspicious in and of themselves, but it bothered me. They both wore rough-looking clothes. Empty-handed, they definitely gave the impression that they were just out for a walk. But at this time of day, to adults wandering around without a purpose, it was enough to raise questions. But I hate it. I hate when the noise just pops up like that. But more than anything else, those eyes. They weren't chit-chatting while walking. They were both silent, heading forward, looking in my direction. Was I at the end of my rope and had finally started imagining things? I should run away. That was probably the best choice. If they weren't involved, I'd lose them easily by running. If they were part of the group after me, then it would come running after me. Either way, unless I hurried up, Rena would catch up with me. That's right, I was going to run. Deciding that the moment I began to turn tail, both of them rushed towards me as if they knew exactly what I was thinking. Somewhere inside me, I jumped to the conclusion that Rena was the only thing I needed to be afraid of. I made the assumption that I didn't need to fear anything else. But right now, I realized just how blatantly wrong I was. Suddenly, the story Oishi-san told me about the demons all living in the village to hunt prey floated through the back of my mind. I could tell they were both coming after me without even turning around because of their frenetic footsteps. It was frightening being unable to shake Rena off as she slowly closed in on me. This didn't even compare. Being pursued with such violent ferocity, this straightforward horror was unparalleled. One of the pursuer's arms grazed my shoulder. Now it wasn't just their frenzied footsteps, but also a distinct sound of their breathing that I could hear. No, I could practically feel them breathing on me. They're already right behind me. Calm down, Keiichimabara. Still running at full tilt, I felt the surrounding area go still. No, it felt like time itself had stopped. I turned my head back slightly in that frozen world, realizing how close my pursuers had gotten to me. I couldn't win against the legs of an adult. In less than the time it would take to blink twice, when this frozen time began moving again, they'd be right on top of me. On top of me, and then... Don't think about that, Keiichi. First, realize that you won't be able to shake them off like this. If the fact that you can't get away was a given, then you need to make a decision. Go with the right leg or go with the left. You just need to decide which one. Let's go with the left. The moment I decided that, the temporal singularity burst into pieces. Right. Left. I swung the bat in a wide arc with my right arm. Using that inertia, I stopped and suddenly spun. What? The 2 of them were clearly startled. Momentarily losing sight of me, both their outstretched arms ready to grab me, instead grasp at empty space. The man on the right, I applaud him being able to figure it out, spun around to the spot I shouldn't have been and faced me in astonishment. But it was too late. I didn't even need to swing my bat. All I needed to do was extend my arms as I turned around. It was by no means a heavy blow, but it seemed like it had enough power behind it to knock him off his feet. Just knocking him down wasn't enough to scare him away. He got back up in no time. Both of them took a fighting stance and were ready to face me. This made me certain they weren't just 2 people out for a walk. Clearly, they weren't 2 people out for a walk when they were chasing you. It felt much easier than dealing with Rena. Just by not recognizing their faces, by not knowing them, it made things easier. I smiled wryly on the inside. What do you want with me? Next one's going to be right in your face, you bastard. It's fine if it was just a bluff. By barking out at them, I was able to fire myself up. They didn't respond. They spread out to either side of me with unbelievably calm expressions on their faces. One of them would grab onto my bat and the other would hold me down. Was that their plan? Taking on both of them at once would be impossible. Hot sweat poured from every pore in my body. Then I just had to settle with the first move. I'd step in and strike the first one down. Narrowing my target down to the man on the right, who had already been knocked down before, I stepped in and swung with all my might. There's no way for an unarmed person to guard against it. It would cause immense damage. If they blocked it with their arm, their bone would snap like a twig. If they turned their back to it, then it was possible that the blow would travel all the way to their vital organs. It looked like he was aware of this. He pushed farther through the kill zone between us and delivered a fist right into my gut. Not good. With this distance in this position and this state, there's no way for me to dodge it. Oh, got, friend. The world flipped upside down. I understood that I was being tossed around like a rag doll. I landed on soft earth without a sound, feeling the grainy soil press against my face. It didn't hurt at all. But the moment I thought that, I suddenly felt pain coming from the abrasions on my skin, as well as the contents of my stomach being forced upwards, flooding my mouth with a bitter sensation. I knew very well that I didn't have the time to relish this experience. I stood up as quickly as I could, but at that moment the other man was already barreling towards me. Being able to comprehend calmly that I simply couldn't dodge it made all the more upsetting. After plowing into my stomach full force, once again, my assailant twisted around behind me and locked his thick arm around my neck. My throat felt like it was being crushed by his immense strength. I couldn't even contemplate that I was being strangled or that I was about to go unconscious. My vision simply darkened, and a slight whining noise began playing deep inside my mind. It took everything I had to keep myself from blacking out. While this was happening, the other man was more than likely standing in front of me. I wasn't able to open my eyes, but I could feel that he was there. There was nothing I could do now. Unable to shake his arm off me, I couldn't run, I couldn't fight back. Dire straits. I couldn't even come up with the phrase that adequately described my situation. This was a very long transition. A familiar ceiling. The smell of the bed and pillows. I knew them well. Was this my room? Normally there wouldn't be anyone in my room besides me, but their presence made me spring wide awake. When I did that, pain shot throughout my entire body. Feeling alright? I think you'd better just lie down for a bit. I was Ren in my room. Blood began to surge from my muscles and my capillaries, but Rena's smile belonged to Ren I knew well. I knew I shouldn't let myself feel this way, but I relaxed, thinking that this version of Rena was safe. Why am I? Don't you remember? After losing consciousness, nothing at all. My body had become more lethargic than I could ever have imagined. I guess that would be the expected outcome after exerting everything I had back there. I tried to at least clear my head, but I just couldn't shake the sluggish feeling out of my mind. I called the doctor. He should be here soon. I think you'd better just lie down until then. I wasn't injured seriously enough to merit calling a doctor, but knowing that someone impartial was coming was slightly reassuring. Why am I here? I'm sure I was at the damn site. That's what I want to know. What happened? When I got there, Keiichi-kun was already passed out. That's why I'm the one who wants to know. I was attacked by two weirdos. As I talked about it, I finally remembered what happened right before I passed out. Recalling that memory and the terror that went along with it caused the fogginess around my head to clear right up. Let's forget about those two for now. I didn't expect Rena to be nursing me. I thought Rena was trying to kill me. She would have had the perfect chance while I was unconscious. Not only did she not kill me, she had nursed me back to health. Amazing you could drag me all the way back here. Wasn't I heavy? Looking at Rena's delicate frame, it was hard to believe that she had not only gotten me back home, but even dragged me all the way up to the second floor. Did she have some help? Don't you remember, Keiichi-kun? Ren appeared a bit surprised, but still kept her smile. I only propped you up on my shoulder. You said you could walk on your own and that you were fine. You don't remember? I didn't remember. My memory was fuzzy after the point where I lost consciousness. What about those two? Huh? When you got there, Ren, the ones with me, or rather, those two guys. There wasn't anyone. She said it bluntly. The way she stated it felt slightly unpleasant. I was just too timid at that time. I might have been able to force some answers out of Rena. But if I did that, then this kind Rena might transform into a scary Rena who I didn't know. Fearing that, I didn't press any further. Thinking about it, it was the obvious choice. If both those men were there, I don't think Rena would even have stood a chance. I couldn't find a way to explain it unless I assumed she brought me here after those two were already gone. Rena was still smiling. Her eyes sparkled warmly. Yet, I felt like I was hallucinating when I saw something. Something akin to a shadow slowly creeping across her face. That small omen sent shivers down my spine. While Rena was still Rena, I needed to make contact. I needed to contact Oishi-san. Rena stopped me when I tried to get out of bed. She said it would aggravate my wounds, so I should sleep. I'd like to go to the bathroom, though. Sorry. Rena couldn't say anything else. We gotta go, we gotta go. While Rena stayed in the room, I quickly went downstairs to get the phone receiver in the living room. When I approached the front door, the doorbell rang. Ding dong. Must have been the doctor Rena had called. It was strange for a patient to welcome in the doctor who was making a house call, but it would be incredibly reassuring to have him here for the considerable time it would take Oishi-san to get here. I carelessly opened the door with that simple assumption, and regretted it almost instantly. Mion? Oh, you look just fine. I heard you collapse, so I came to check up on you. How did you know I collapsed? I heard from Rena over the phone. Do I need any reason other than that? I understood why she would call a doctor, but why Mion too? Because get a friend over, man. That's what they do. Rena was descending the stairs behind me. Rena, doesn't Kei-chan look pretty alright? Sheesh, made me worry for nothing. That's true. Maybe I worried for nothing as well. They both began laughing. It appeared to be cheerful laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a darkness looming over them. Whoa, what's up with this shoe rack? How did it get like this? The shoe rack that I'd smashed to pieces had been like that since yesterday. I fell, you see, and the bat I was holding at the time slammed into it. This is what happens when you swing around something you're not used to handling. I kept the fact that was none of her business to myself. But leaving it like this will really startle your parents when they get home. I'll fix it up for you later. Now, come on, Kei-chan. The terminally ill need their rest. Come, back in bed. Both of them urged me up the stairs. I had no chance to call Oishi-san. I was pushed into my bed. As it was the first time Mion had been in my room, she began searching around it intently. She fiddled around my room and was scolded by Rena. You can imagine how it went. It was uncomfortable having my room poked around, but the conversation was so benign that it was heartwarming. During that innocent conversation, Mion said something as though it was perfectly ordinary. Rena, did you call the manager? Yep, right after I called Michan. He said he'd be right over. Manager? That out-of-place word gave me a bad feeling. Rena called the doctor, then called Mion. After that, she called a manager? Who was this manager? Since Rena and Mion's conversation was so peaceful, it only felt slightly odd. What are you two talking about? Who's this manager? Haha, didn't you know, Kei-chan? We mean the manager when we say manager. Like the director of a movie, or like a foreman of a construction site. I don't like that. I'd laugh if I get creepy. I dug through all of my memories for a manager who might have business with me. Only one thing came to mind. What Rena had just said. The construction site foreman. The very first victim of the first incident. The dismemberment at the damn construction site. The foreman? But that was strange. He was supposed to be dead. There's no way they could call him. I don't understand what you guys are talking about. What does that manager have to do with me? You said he was coming. Did you mean to my house? I asked one obvious question after another. But all the two of them did was smile coolly at each other. There was a huge difference between how the two of them appeared and how my suspicions were playing out. Slowly, I felt discomfort and panic welling up inside me. I couldn't understand what Rena and Mion were talking about. Kei-chan, you've gotten into baseball lately, haven't you? Pretty sure the manager will be happy to hear that. So who is this manager? The manager is the manager. So who is the manager? I hate this. Rena and Mion looked at each other and laughed haughtily. That disturbing cackle unpleasantly resounded around me. That laugh, long enough to be unsettling, ended abruptly. Oh yeah, we should finish up before the manager comes. You remember, don't you, Kei-chan? Her face was laughing, but Mion's eyes told a different story. Remember what? Keiichi-kun, had he forgotten, I wonder? About the penalty. Did you really forget? The homework with the mochi. The homework where you were supposed to guess which one Rena made. You forgot about that homework, didn't you? I certainly did have that homework. I had thrown away the rest of the mochi after I found that sewing needle, so I wasn't able to answer which one Rena made. The penalty for that? Why now? No doubt my question was written all over my face. Their answer to my question was that dry laughter. I could no longer make heads or tails of anything. I began to think that this entire day was somehow insane, strange, incomprehensible. Being chased by Rena, attacked by strange men, The penalty Mion and Rena were talking about. I hate that. What were these two laughing at? It didn't take that long for me to realize I'd been dragged into an abnormal situation. Who were these two? Who were these people? Who are these doppelgangers of Rena and Mion? Oh, nope, okay. That's... Ren had gotten behind me at some point. Why was she pinning my arms behind my back? What are you doing? Don't move. This is your penalty. I hate. My body was already very sluggish, and Ren pinning my arms made it that much harder to move. I seriously tried to struggle, but she wouldn't even budge. My panic began to well up, and I realized this was well beyond the realm of jokes and pleasantries. This freakishly monstrous strength, it would have been impossible for the Rena that I knew. Then these thin, frail arms grasping me firmly. Whose arms were they? Kei-chan, no struggling. Club rules. There are no exceptions. You can't fight against the penalty. Mion, no, that thing that looked like Mion, spoke to me like how Mion would speak to me. But I was certain that this was not Mion. Someone who wasn't Mion, someone who was just pretending to be Mion. Hehehe. Need to finish this up before the manager comes. Mion fished into her pockets and pulled out something bizarre. I could tell what it was just by looking, but for such a thing to be in her pocket, my mind wouldn't accept it. What is that? It was a small syringe. It was a small, clear syringe, like what a doctor would use when you went to him when you were sick. Rena held me even tighter, and I could hear that clattering laughter that no longer sounded like laughter blaring into my ear. That eerie laughter, it wasn't something that the Rena I knew could ever produce from her own throat. This thing that was pretending to be Rena, was this their real laugh? Unable to defend myself, the syringe Mion was holding drew closer, and that needle tip was waved in front of my face countless times. Don't worry. It won't hurt. Well, what are you planning on doing? What kind of sick joke is this? What are you saying, Kei-chan? You know exactly what's going on, don't you? About what? I don't understand any of this at all. I know you know. No use playing the fool this late in the game. Stop talking nonsense to try and confuse me. You're going to have done to you what happened to Tamataki-san. What? The same as Tamataki-san? I didn't really understand what you meant. What did that have to do with the syringe? You're playing dumb, Keiichi-kun. You should have realized it by now. Rena whispered into my ear, laughing as if to admonish me. But even the way she spoke was repulsive beyond compare. Playing dumb? Me? About what? What do you mean, the same as Tamataki-san? Everyone thought at first that was a hit and run. Except when the officer got closer to check if he was still alive. He soon noticed it wasn't a normal situation. His throat was scratched out. From a knife or something? No. Nails. Nails? Nails as in fingernails? With those gouged through? That's right. Tamataki-san had clawed out his own throat with his own nails and died. There's no way someone could die like that. So then, for that to happen, we thought drugs were to blame, but nothing of that nature was detected. That's right. The police didn't find any drugs in Tamataki-san's system. The police told me they didn't find any drugs in Tamataki-san's body. Quick. God. The two of them laughed together with that sickening laughter. Of course they'd laugh. To assume that such a medicine didn't exist just because the police didn't know about it was completely foolish. Meaning the drug that caused Tamataki-san to die in such a bizarre manner did exist? If Mion injected this into me, then that would probably be all the proof I needed. That would basically mean I'd end up the same as Tamataki-san. Become hysterical, scratching out my own throat in my last moments, and then die. For such an outrageous drug to exist, for Mion to be holding it, and that I was about to be injected with it, that moment, I did not feel there was any need whatsoever to question it. What kind of idiot, when he's trying to dodge a ball flying straight for his face, has time to think of a reason as to why it's flying at him? Fair. Just give up. Alright then. Mion's actions lacked any gravitas, and that made it even more terrifying. There was none of the ceremony like when someone is sentenced to death. There was no hesitation at all, as if she were brushing her teeth. Mion reached out with one hand and grabbed onto my chest. It felt like electricity had run through the back of my head and the entire world had gone dark. Did I stand up too fast? Or did someone hit me really hard in the back of the head? Having lost my sense of balance, I was assaulted by a wave of dizziness. I squatted down for a bit. When I came back to my senses, my entire room had changed drastically. Oh no. The numbness in my head was gone, and slowly, I could tell blood was flowing to my extremities again. How long had I been squatting here? How many minutes? Or has it been hours? It was almost as if the hands on the clock had stopped moving the entire time my eyes were closed. That's how little time passed. Really? The air in the room wasn't filled with that madness from before, only a dull silence. Rena wasn't there pinning my arms, and Mion wasn't there about to inject me with a needle. No way. Could it be? All of it was a hallucination? There was no other presence in the room besides my own. It was the weirdest experience I'd ever had. I was certainly with Rena and Mion. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but I was also seized with some sort of comfort. I guess that terrible ordeal was a hallucination. Neither Rena nor Mion, they wouldn't ever do something so terrible. My head grew hot. I could tell my emotions were welling up. Why? That wasn't a reason to cry. Why? It was sorrow. Why was I sad? I don't understand. I don't understand. Kind to everyone, not discriminating against age or gender. Mion. That Mion was sprawled by the window in an unnatural pose. Blood stained her deep red from her head down to her chest. The bright crimson smeared on the walls. That splatter had undoubtedly come from Mion. She always had that bright smile and was kind to me from the day I transferred. Rena. That same Rena was slumped at my feet and was making the same pool of blood as Mion. Oh, this is sad. I don't like it. I couldn't comprehend what had happened. Did someone come to save me? And they beat these two down with this metal bat? I finally noticed the weight in my right hand. How long had it been there? It was Satoshi's metal bat. It was covered in deep red. There was no doubt that this was the weapon used to mutilate both of them. And I was holding that weapon. I was the only person in the house. Well, looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of anyone other than myself who could have done it. I did this? That's right. Keiichi Maibara. Of course I did it. I told myself gently, as if coaxing myself. Hey, me. There's no reason for you to remember it, nor is there a need to regret it. Eat or be eaten. You get that, don't you? But the blood. There's so much. Neither Venom nor Mion had moved an inch. It wasn't just a split forehead and a trickle of blood. Nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered with red, and that told me it didn't end with just 2 or 3 strikes. Were they dead? What do you think, bro? Both of them? The depths of my mind were calm, but on the surface I was panicking and agitated. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. What happened to your usual calm self? Come on now. Do like you always do. Throw your head back and take a deep breath. Come on. Once. Twice. Breathe deeply. Calm down. Calm down. I chanted that over and over in my head and relaxed. Color came back to my vision and smells reinfused the air. At the same time, I remember what happened when I blacked out. Ren and Mion had attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused the same symptoms as Tomotaki-san. But right before that happened, I fought back. I twisted my whole body and threw Ren as she was pinning my arms. Then I followed it through with my spin and rammed my foot as hard as I could into Mion's torso. It was soft. Rena tried jumping on me, so I tackled her as hard as I could, and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that brief moment of having them off balance slip by. Soshi's bat that was left carelessly by the side of my desk. Weep. At that moment, everything went pitch black. There was nothing recorded past this point in the videotape of my mind. No, that wasn't right. It wasn't that there was nothing recorded. It was recorded just fine. Just the other me inside myself had told me not to look and had turned off the TV. Just because the screen had gone black and I couldn't see it, didn't mean that the videotape within me hadn't recorded it. The TV was just off. The video was still playing. I like this description of like being in a traumatic event and you're like self-conscious or subconscious just like kind of blocking it out. So this is horrifying. And it's more so sad. The tape within me creaking along, still playing. On the other end of that pitch black screen, that horrifying video was still playing on. Compared to this, though, the scene right before my eyes, was still so difficult to take in. There's blood splattered everywhere on the walls, the two of them in these unnatural poses. Not a sign of movement from them. I couldn't even tell if they were breathing. No matter what the circumstances were, my friends, these girls, I had attacked them. I may have even killed them. But if I hadn't done this, I would have been the one done for. Balancing that out on an imaginary scale, it felt odd that I'd even feel bad about it. Even if it was a bit excessive, this was justifiable self-defense. The proof was all here. 2 of them collapsed here in Mion's syringe. Mion's syringe filled with some unknown drug would certainly solve the mystery surrounding the incident with Tamataki-san. And from the fact that both of these 2 were involved, they'd be able to pick out the criminals one after the other. Still, I might be suspected for this. But that was just fine. Anyway, now this should be a police affair. This wouldn't fade into the darkness like Rena's past incidents. As long as the police were involved, that should bring this to a close. They'll probably revisit their investigation on the chain of incidents. Oishi-san would definitely get to the bottom of it. Meaning, my wish of not wanting to die, of wanting to know the truth, that would be fulfilled in its most basic form. It was all a matter of time now. The doctor Rena called should be getting here soon. I'll confess everything to him. I need to contact Oishi-san. At that moment I remembered. Besides the doctor, a manager had been called. It was easy to imagine that they were someone deeply involved with the incidents, judging from Ren and Mion's conversation. The ache in my chest caused by the gruesome deed I'd done dissipated rapidly. It was not over yet. This place was no longer safe. Stay calm, Keiichi Maibara. It's not over yet. I need to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. At that moment, I felt like I heard someone's voice from outside. Since people were speaking, it must mean there was more than one person. I moved the curtain ever so slightly and peered outside. It was a bizarre sight. About 4 or 5 grown men were all gathered at the gate. They very much resembled the 2 men who had assaulted me at the dam site today. Those 2 might even be among them. There was one person there wearing a white coat, but he didn't look like a doctor at all. My gut told me he was in disguise, only posing as a doctor. That guy would probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door, pretend to be a doctor to get me to open the door, and then the rest of them would all rush in at once. At that moment, I saw the car parked behind the men, and my heart nearly skipped a beat. The white van. Uh-oh. Ugh. No mistaking it. That van, the one that tried to run me down. The man in the white coat entered the gate and headed towards the front door. The rest of the men hid in the bushes and watched him. Why'd they do that, man? That's being all tricksy and shit. I probably couldn't pretend that I wasn't home. Undoubtedly, they'd just break the window and enter. I needed to get out of here somehow. Then use a public phone to contact Oishi-san. Then meet up somewhere. First of all, I need a weapon. Then shoes. Before all of that, there was one thing I had to do. I had no intention of dying. I'd live and reveal the truth about this nonsensical curse of Oyashiro-sama. But what would happen from here on, regardless of how determined I was, may bring about my demise. And that was why. There's one thing more important than getting out of here right now. I need to get that clock out quickly and take down the note hidden behind it. Damn it. The tape was sticking to it fast. It'd be fine if it was torn a little. I opened up the slightly torn note and began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. If I wasn't able to inform Oishi-san, then the only thing I could rely on was this note. I'd never thought a piece of torn college-ruled notebook paper could be this reliable before. I had no time. I'd only write what I knew right now. I needed to leave some sort of information that would lead them to uncover the truth. Ren and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. This was an undeniable fact. I still didn't want to believe it, but it was a fact. Anyway, I'd leave all the information that would help lead them to finding the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This was everything I was able to see from the window. There may be more. Also, there was that unidentified person known as the manager. To begin with, the term manager didn't even mesh with Hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the managers from the past incidents, then the only one is the construction foreman, the victim from the first murder. The very first victim in the chain of incidents. Killed in a lynching, his body divided into 6 pieces. His right arm was never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death. But Ren and Mion did both call him manager. They said manager. They wouldn't use that term to refer to someone who was dead. The police would never even conceive that someone who was deceased could be involved. Could that be some sort of oversight? It's a freaking corpse running around. Like, weren't his pieces found? Like, he's just one arm? I don't know, man. But even if I didn't know, it could be a big hint for Oishi-san. That's right. They needed to start fresh from the first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but the start of the string of mysterious deaths that would follow. So then, there must be something hidden there. Please reinvestigate the victim from the dismemberment incident. He's alive. His death should have been established after an autopsy. Logically, you would think as much. But was that really the case? Could it have been some sort of ploy that they were able to deceive the police with? I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but he may still be alive. I had no time to ponder that right now. Oh yeah, there's something even more important I need to write. Tamataki-san's death was from an unknown drug. That's right. That drug, it was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt just by having this, everything would be uncovered. I couldn't just leave the vital clue lying on the floor. This syringe is proof. Writing that down, I stuck the syringe onto the back of the clock with plenty of tape, so it absolutely would not slip out and fall to the form. to the floor, firmly, firmly. Uh-oh. Bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write anymore. But even still, there's one last thing that I had to write. I have no idea why it's become like this. This may be the closest thing to the truth out of everything I wrote on this note. If you're reading this, then I'm probably already dead. Though you may or may not find my body. If I was going to write out everything that could happen, either dying from the curse or being demoned away, you who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. With this, my last will and testament was complete. It wasn't certain that I was going to die, but was my final plea, just in case. I folded the note, stuck it back onto the back of the clock, and returned the clock back to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray. Oishi-san, if something happens to me, I leave the rest to you. After that, I gazed down silently at Rena and Mion. This was probably the last time we'd ever see each other. Rena, Mion, I really had thought all of us were friends. But why did it end up like this? I never had any fun in my previous school. I only worried about standardized test scores, about if the school I hoped to get into was where I really wanted to go or a safety net. That was all I talked about. It was a dull life. The people I called friends were also my rivals in studying, in competitions, in personal records, and standardized test scores. Everyone here taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. This month was really fun. Making a fuss over lunch, making a fuss over the club, making a fuss over the festival. Something hot began dripping from my face. Uncontrollable tears. I should have had no obligation to shed tears for them. But they wouldn't stop. Even if they were after my life. Even if they were trying to kill me. Everything that happened this month, I wouldn't forget it. Oh. Or could it be those happy days were all a facade as well? Was it all a trap meticulously orchestrated up until today to ensnare me? Could it have been that I had just arbitrarily assumed that they were my friends? That couldn't have been the case. Both Ren and Mion, they really were my friends. Those happy days, there's nothing fake or unclear about them. Someone probably forced them to try to kill me, or their minds were taken over, possessed by the supernatural entity known as Oishiro-sama. Regardless, both Ren and Mion, they were the best friends ever. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition. Wait, they weren't the kind of people to sell off their friends regardless of whether or not they were forced. There's no way such a thing like being possessed by Oishiro-sama could happen in reality. Then, did the real Ren and Mion come after me? What was I thinking? What a silly, dumb idea. Having beaten down both Ren and Mion, I was still debating if they were the real ones or fakes. There was no real or fake. Only the reality that was before me. Ren and Mion were sprawled out at my feet. That was the only truth. I was only trying to twist the facts to my benefit that I'd beaten my friends to death. No matter how I spun it, it wouldn't change reality. Ren and Mion were both dead. It felt like there was a crack in the dam of strange emotions I was holding back. It felt like my calm state, which was nothing more than a bluff, had receded, and in that opening, insanity was leaking out. I killed them. I killed them. Ren and Mion. I killed them. Yes, you did, friend. The doorbell rang again. The unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure once again. I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I need to get away. I didn't want to die. I would uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever or whatever had pushed me this far. Even if I have to drink mud and eat grass. Ew. I would survive. I would survive. I would definitely survive. I killed Rena for that very reason. I also killed Mion. I went that far just to keep living. So I can't die. For my sake and for the sake of the late Ren and Mion. I have to survive. I ran towards the door and grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again as if to urge me on. Behind the single solitary door, they were there. Keeping quiet, I headed towards the kitchen. Headed towards the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked for people outside. No one? After I put on my shoes, I opened the door slowly so as not to make a sound. There he is, the back door. A piercing voice echoed out. That voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run. Get out of here, Keiichi. One after the other, I felt stuff like rationale and intelligence, those things you use when you have time to spare, spill out of me. I didn't feel any pain from the branches scratching my arms and forehead. My autonomously pulsing heart also felt neither fatigue nor pain. My entire being just wished to live. There was nothing else it desired. Probably had no complaints whatsoever, so of course I wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran, just recklessly rushing in the direction I was already heading. Even if nobody was chasing after me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a thought in my mind about where I was headed. Turning around, I felt a presence right next to me. That presence was, without a doubt, chasing me like my shadow. If I took even one misstep, I would be devoured. That's what I thought. So I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran at full speed. Quack, quack, quack. What is that noise? That was a tripping in the Higurashi telling me it was evening. Oh, trying to tell me something, and then I finally heard it. The wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Would I be joining them? It's scary. Quack, 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 quack. Only the Higurashi knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. So I ran towards where I could hear more of the Higurashi's chirps. But the further I ran, the farther away their chirping became. I couldn't get near them. Why are you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? Then I'll apologize. I'm sorry. 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 I felt that only the Higurashi knew. The smoking room was filled with a cloud of cigarette smoke. The expensive smoke filter gave off some crackling electric noise, but didn't seem like it was doing anything at all. Why do smokers have to be shoved so far down this corridor where the sun didn't even reach? Because smoke smells like butt. I recalled hearing that the tax revenue from tobacco was about a tenth of the municipality's revenue. We are the most heavily taxed members of this municipality, so I really wish they'd showed us a little more respect. Just wait until, late 90s? Why would you discard the 5 manzu there? It's just decreasing your options. One of the younger detectives was having a staring contest with the mahjong magazine called Next Turn. You're still in Tenpai if you cut the 5 manzu. If you're betting on a haite, then shouldn't you be going into it with a mangan? Kuma-chan, look at the pawns. They all discarded a 5 manzu. It's a safe tile. You'd hate it. You'd hate if, at Endgame, someone was sitting on a Tenpai on the last turn, wouldn't you? The kid let out another groan, put out a cigarette, then took out another one. I just don't agree. Why would you reduce your own options? By the way, you can't call Ron with your winning tile in that haite. One of these days I want to learn mahjong, mainly for Final Fantasy XIV. What? Why is that? Just then I heard a voice coming from down the hall. Are you here, Oishi-san? You have a call from a civilian. Whoa, ain't that something? Well, see you soon. Well, why can't you call Ron on it? Well, hold on for a second, Oishi-san. They're just over here, loving their life, man. The man sitting in the seat Oishi-san was heading towards waved at the telephone receiver. Outside line from a payphone. Oh, why thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Oishi. Who is it? Ah, Oishi-san. Hello. If it isn't my Bara-san. Why, good evening. From the tone of my Bara-kun's voice, I already knew he was in a predicament. This was the first time my Bara-kun had phoned me, and he was calling from a payphone. Please calm down. Did something happen? His voice was erratic over the line. He had completely lost his sense of composure. After checking that nobody else could hear, I prompted him in a hushed tone. What happened? Calm down, my Bara-san. I can have the local officers head to your location. I'll be there soon, too. I think that's impossible. His voice was quivering and hoarse. He wasn't surrounded by people even as he was making the call, was he? My Bara-san, you're calling from a payphone right now, right? Where is that payphone? There were no other sounds beside my Bara-kun's voice. It had to be a phone booth. I scratched out a note and thrust it at my colleague sitting across from me. Hinamizawa, phone booth. He understood quickly and hastily started on the internal lines. Calm down, my Bara-san. What is your current situation? It usually wasn't a good idea to tell someone panicking to do so. This was not a usual case. My Bara-kun didn't just get in trouble, get away, and then call me. He was in the midst of something dangerous right now. But yelling at my Bara-kun right now would just needlessly cause him to be even more frantic. My Bara-kun wasn't just calling to seek help. He was trying to tell something more than that. And whatever that was, if I didn't get it from this call, I was certain there would never be another chance. My colleague pushed a note in front of me. There's only one booth in Hinamizawa. Patrol callers on the way. 5 minutes. That's too long. How many officers are in there? 2. Not enough. If it was as I imagined, there were likely quite a few people surrounding my Bara-kun. 5 minutes was too long. Did you call the officer station in Hinamizawa? He's scheduled to be on patrol. They're currently out and it'll be impossible to contact them. God damn. Kuma-chan, bring the car around. Understood. Hello? Oishi-san. Cough, cough. Hello. It's all right. I can hear you loud and clear. There's something wrong with my Bara-kun. That wasn't a normal coughing sound. Vomiting? Or was it blood? Had he already been attacked? Was he injured? My Bara-san, the police are on their way. They'll be there in a couple minutes, so hold on somehow. Hello? Can you hear me? My Bara-san. I could hear on the other end of the line that he was having a coughing fit. The worst possible situation popped into my head. Maibara-san, who's the culprit? How many are there? I thought at first the culprit was human. No, I couldn't tell if that was a call for vomiting. Are you alright, Maibara-san? I thought that the culprit was a person and not Oishiro-sama's curse up until right now, but I guess in the end, it was an intense bout of coughing, then vomiting, but I guess Oishiro-sama does exist. No, he's here. Maibara-san, please just calm down. I had been thinking it was strange for a while now. It's been following me this whole time. I run and run and run and run, but it just sticks to me like my shadow. But slowly, so slowly, it's digging itself into my back. Maibara-san, are they right now perhaps right behind you? Behind me, right behind me. Please, Maibara-san, I can tell you're scared, but please, who is it that's right behind you? I can't just look behind me. If I do, I understand that you're scared, but please tell me. You just need to turn around a bit. Who is it? Who is behind you, Maibara-san? Right after I said that, I could hear him vomiting intensely. What followed was a nightmarish sound. Maibara-san, it couldn't be that you're clawing out your own throat. There was no answer, but I could hear something like scratching. There was a bang, as if something was being hit. Maibara-kun had probably dropped the receiver. I could hear groaning and vomiting over on the other end and a repeating, abnormal noise. Hello, hello, Maibara-san, hello. I knew how far away my voice would sound on the other end, but I couldn't help but shout. At that moment I heard whispering, coming from the other end. I couldn't tell what he was saying. From the way he was saying it, was he talking to himself? Or was he talking to someone there? Hello, Maibara-san. Rather than whispering, it was some kind of mantra he was chanting over and over. I focused my senses, trying to pick up what he was saying. What was he repeating? What exactly? Beep. Suddenly a line went dead. Did he use up his time? It was because it was a payphone. It was because it cut out so abruptly. The last thing he said came out so clearly in my mind. Oishi-san, the car is good to go. Oishi-san. It was, I'm sorry. Oishi-san. That's what he was repeating over and over. He said, I'm sorry. I had a gut feeling. There's no longer a need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the Higurashi spilling in from the open window. Queak, 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 queak. I should have been able to hear them this entire time. I just wasn't paying any attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? Queak, 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 queak. Were they trying to tell me something? Only the Higurashi knew. That's how I felt. Man, what a way to... Is that the end? I know I did all the tips. Oh, okay, there's more. July 1983. In Hinamizawa, remote village near Shishibune City, there's a murder involving 2 female students. The suspect is Keiichi Maibara. The suspect called over his 2 female classmates, Rena Ryugi and Mion Sanzaki, to his house and beat them to death with a metal bat. The scene of the crime was the suspect's room on the 2nd floor of his house. The inside of the room was covered with a significant quantity of splattered blood, and there were signs of a struggle with the victims. In addition to the scene of the crime, the entryway, living room, and kitchen all had traces of a struggle. The entryway, the shoe rack, and wall had evidence of being impacted by a strong, blunt force. It is believed to have been the same bat as the murder weapon. Having no traces of blood, it is believed the destruction occurred before the murders. There is a possibility that the suspect overpowered his victims to keep them from fleeing. In the living room, the rug had been pulled back, then thrown aside. Oh, that's right, because he was looking for the needle. It's hard to believe that this had a connection to the struggle with the victims, and thus the reason for this remains unknown. In the kitchen, the garbage bag was torn apart and its contents were spread out on the floor. Garbage was strewn about in the surrounding area, and handprints believed to belong to the suspect were discovered. It is believed that the suspect had, for some reason, taken out the garbage and struck it with his fists. The reason for this remains unknown, because he is insanely looking for a needle. In addition, there was a note stuck to the fridge. The words, "Was there a needle?" were written on it. The meaning behind this remains unclear. Just in case, the garbage was searched, but a needle was not discovered. Though the garage door was functional, it had been left open ever since the suspect moved in. The garage door was found closed. The suspect's fingerprints were discovered on the garage door. The reason behind this remains unknown. The suspect fled the scene of the crime. However, a patrolling officer, Hinamizawa local PD, found the suspect collapsed inside a phone booth. At the time of discovery, the suspect was in conscious and critical condition. He was rushed to a local hospital for treatment, but did not regain consciousness and died 24 hours later. The results of the autopsy indicate the immediate cause of death to have been hypovolemic shock. It was determined that the suspect had clawed out his own throat with his fingernails, and resulting bleeding caused his death. With the similarity to the death of Tomitake-san the prior week, the police believe there to be a connection and have opened an investigation. However, due to the wishes of the local authorities, it will be a confidential investigation. Due to the abnormal nature of the death, it was suspected that drugs were involved, but as with Tomitake-san, no traces were discovered. What prompted all this remains inexplicable. As such, this case is being treated as an act committed on impulse. However, with several accounts of the suspect's bizarre behavior leading up to the incident, it's possible this was premeditated. Separated from his group of friends, isolation, inexplicable behavior. Several days before the incident, the suspect began carrying around a metal bat. The suspect was observed displaying aggressive behavior as well as talking to himself at school. His classmates have actually heard portions of what he was saying. 2 days before the incident, the suspect declared to his parents the possibility of his death. Due to these circumstances, the police have begun an investigation on the possibility that this crime was not committed on impulse, but was instead planned several days in advance. Afterwards, a note was found in the suspect's room that he had written himself. The note was written on 2 sheets from a B5 college rule notebook that had been torn in half, and as if trying to conceal it, was stuck hidden behind a clock on the wall. At least they found it. The contents are as written in the appendix. The police believe it to be strongly related to the incident. The police changed their line of investigation based on the possibility that the suspect was involved in some sort of incident himself. However, no further clues were found, casting doubt on the credibility of the note. Was the crime impulsive or premeditated? With the situation unclear and no further developments, the case has been labeled as unresolved. However, the following year, suspicion arose regarding the nature of the note. The note was not written on 2 halves of B5 paper from 2 separate sheets, but was originally a single sheet of B5 paper. In order to erase several lines from the middle, someone had torn them out. Judging from the size of the letters, the missing section is estimated to be 2 to 3 lines. It is highly probable that the person who eliminated the lines in question is not the suspect. In addition, judging from traces of large quantities of cellophane tape being stuck to the back of the clock, speculation that something other than a note was stuck there has arisen. The person who first discovered the crime was a detective rumored to have a connection with the incident, Karuoda Oishi. He underwent voluntary questioning, but denies involvement in any damages to the note. The suspect's note. What part did they take out? I, Keiichi Maibara, am in fear of my life. I do not know why they are after my life. The only thing I do know is that it has to do with Oyashiro-sama's curse. Ren and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is all on the first sheet. Everything below this has been ripped out. This is from the second sheet. Everything above this has been ripped out. I have no idea why it has become like this. If you are reading this, then I am probably already dead. Though the only difference may be the presence or lack of a body. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. I think that's targeted towards us. Keiichi Maibara. Man, what a freaking story, dude. And it's gotta be the ending to it. New scenario has been unlocked. All cast review sessions have become available. Play it, select extra. So let's see what that's all about. It's not like this video is long enough as it is. All cast review session. Let's play around with this. So I can have a chapter jump now too. All right. I did not buy it. Well, actually, I did buy it years ago when it first came out, but I never really played it. I just owned it. Thank you for buying Higurashi When They Cry, Onikakushi, a visual novel by 07th Expansion. How was it? If you enjoyed it, even a little bit, it would make me happy. I did enjoy it. It was a fun story, and very depressing and sad. And a lot of good talks on like mental health and stuff. Even a little bit stretching it. That incredibly dark ending made me angry, you know? Mood. Made us angry. As I understand it, this Onikakushi chapter is supposed to be somewhat of a prologue to the entire series. How could the prologue have such an incredibly dark ending? Yeah, but doesn't that happen sometimes? The player digging through the story in order to avoid a bad ending is the point of these types of games, after all. It's still just the first chapter. I'm looking forward to the next one. What happens in the next chapter? Rena, do you know? Yeah, they said the next chapter will introduce another aspect of the story. That's a strange way of putting it. What does that mean? In this chapter, they introduced a string of mysterious deaths that were happening in Hinamizawa recently, right? The next chapter will introduce some of the history of Hinamizawa. With one strange event happening after another, I got totally lost. What exactly is Oishiro-sama's curse about? Actually, what is Oishiro-sama to begin with? They didn't explain it much. I haven't heard much about it, but I have kind of a bad feeling about it. It feels like it'll be another one of those scary stories where somebody gets cursed again. Tough luck, yeah, Kei-chan. What kind of curse is he gonna get hit with this time? However, I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of story it's going to be. It's so weird seeing them like all happy and stuff. Oh god, dude, why? Ugh. Sorry for being late, my bad. Hey everybody. Hey, look, he's alive. Good luck today. Good work today. Same to you. Huh, where's Kei-chan? Keiichi-kun's already off reading the script for the next chapter. It must be hard being the main character. Love it. Huh, that's too bad. He could have at least poked in to say hello. It's probably because he doesn't have any character art, so he couldn't poke his head in even if he wanted to. I'm assuming that he didn't, Ryukishi didn't, like, design Keiichi's character until, what, probably the answer arcs, maybe? I don't know, Waymate. I'm curious now to find out when that actually shows up. Rika-san, that's what we refer to as a personal problem. What are you talking about, bro? In any case, that story really was a lot of trouble, especially for Keiichi-kun and Rena-chan. Trouble? That was the mother of all bad ends. I wonder, what was the identity of the thing that attacked Keiichi-kun? My theory is that it was the work of people made to look like a curse. But at the end, Keiichi-kun made that phone call, or Keiichi made that phone call. Yeah, I also thought that call was strange. At that point, Kei-chan should have been certain that the culprits were people. That really was a strange phone call. It almost sounded like he was being chased by a ghost or something. Just from that phone call, it really makes me think that was the work of a curse after all. The way they're so happy talking about this is weird, but it's a nice, like, way to cap off the very sad story that we just read through. Since we're all here, why don't we all share our theories? Let's start with Sonozaki-san. I absolutely believe it was people. I think it was a man-made incident that was just imitating the strange folklore floating around Hinamizawa. Certainly, every year on the day of the festival for another link in the chain of mysterious deaths to happen certainly is suspicious. That so-called chain of mysterious deaths is definitely somebody trying to reenact the folklore, definitely. I think it was the curse. Looking at the scene where Keiichi-san went berserk in the entryway, and the last scene with the phone call, I just couldn't come to the conclusion that person was the culprit. When you say it that way, it really wasn't the type of scene that would make you think it was the work of an actual person. Yeah, but even then, I still think it was a person who did it. That last scene and the one with the entryway, I think it might have been a delusional episode I brought about by post-traumatic stress disorder. I wouldn't know what's going on anymore, even if he didn't use such complicated words. Yeah, that's how I feel with a lot of life. In other words, Keiichi was so scared that he was imagining things. Then, what was the meaning behind that scene? What exactly was that mysterious presence behind Keiichi? A red herring. R-E-D-H-E-R-R-I-N-G. Mi-chan, what do you mean by red herring? Like old man Tamataki here said, the scene was the result of Kei-chan having a stress-induced delusion from being mentally cornered. To expand on that a bit further, it was a ploy to make the player think it was a curse. That's why it was red herring. But when you say it like that, but... Haha, well, it just means that there isn't possibility. In that case, the theory that Oishi-san proposed during the story that was a conspiracy by the villagers was correct? What does that man himself have to say? What does the man himself have to say about that? Me? It makes you think, Huh? I totally thought that Oishi-san would be behind the people explanation. During the story, I said it was definitely the work of people, but if a person really was to blame, that leaves a lot of loose ends. Like what? Let us hear what Detective Oishi-san's theory is, unless she has, like, popped up in between them. First of all, if a human is the culprit, then there has to be a motive. In other words, somebody has to gain something from it. So what you mean is, if this was the work of people, there would have to be something gained from causing the chain of mysterious deaths. Exactly. I felt that somebody could have benefited from the deaths of people related to the dam development, but the recent victims weren't related to that at all. First off, who benefits from killing Keiichi-kun? I see. If you say it like that, my case is kind of weak too. I mean, none of your money was stolen. There's no way it was human culprits. You know, that's a good way to look at it, honestly. But it's not everything there is to it, right? Like Michan just said, there might have been some sort of reason for them to reenact the folklore. Exactly. This wasn't a murder where you considered it typical motives. It makes me think that this was most likely some sort of ritualistic murder to reenact the blood-stained history of the village. So I'll ask the question of the hour, who gains from this reenactment? It's not about simple benefit, it's a more psychological reason. I think that maybe this was an act of revenge. Something native to the region. Fate was unable to be fooled this time around. I see. A member of some repressed family looking to air out an old grudge for their ancestors. Something like that. I don't like that. Then what is it? It couldn't be that you're leaning towards the curse explanation, Oishi-san. That's right, that's right. The man playing the detective said so. It's decided it was a curse. If, like how Maibara-san said during the story, it was the case that Oishiro-sama possessed Rina-san and Sonozaki-san and committed those acts, that would fit the evidence the most. As much as I hate to say it. Actually, I'm of the same opinion as Oishi-san. I can't come up with any other explanation for the normally kind Rena and Michan to suddenly start acting strange like that. About that, it may sound strange coming from the person herself, but I think that I, Mion, did it. Ugh. I don't get what Mi is saying. I'd like an explanation. Oh, sorry. In other words, I think this may end up being a really cruel story. Well, that's not wrong. Huh, wait, Michan. You don't mean... If you follow the trail of evidence to the very end, that's how it would seem. I also have my suspicions. In other words, Rena-san and Sonozaki-san both actually had the personalities to begin with, and were merely deceiving Maibara-san. Am I right? I don't like that at all. Why? This is all the curse's fault. Rena-san and Mion-san and everybody else are all kind, nice people. Damn curse. I think that too. I think that Rena and Mion-chan are really good people at heart. I think that during the story they definitely were possessed by something. So Ren also thinks it was a curse. Then let me ask everybody who thinks it was a curse. There has to be a reason for a curse, right? I don't think there would be something indiscriminately cursing everything. Can somebody explain that? A curse is a curse. Human logic won't get us anywhere. Fair. Aha, Satsuko-chan, a personified deity is, in the end, nothing more than the creation of people. That's why their method of thinking is also understandable to humans. Just take a look at the Greek pantheon. They cry, get angry, get jealous. Basically, they're just like humans. So what you're saying is that Oishiro-sama is cursing people with some benefit in mind. That's not a way of putting it, but basically, yes. That's why they say, far from Jupiter, far from the thunder. Haha, you do have a point. Basically, it doesn't matter if it's Oishiro-sama or humans, there has to be a reason. But Rika, what if that reason isn't clear? I don't know. It's just straightforward, like, I don't know, dude. Leave me alone. That's right. This is still just the prologue. There's still a lot of stuff that hasn't been revealed yet. Yeah, it's hard to come up with any more theories at this point. No, I won't be satisfied until this is all made clear. Same. Mion-san seems rather particular about this as well. We'll just make the best with what we know. Doesn't this feel interesting, like the club a little bit? Oh yeah, if you put it that way, it does seem interesting. Oh yeah, it's a bop. Well then, let's summarize. Let's see, I think it was a curse. Tamataka-kun thinks it was people, right? Yeah, I'll go with it being people. I also agree with the people explanation. That's not to say I hate such fantastic things like curses. but in this particular case, the connection to a curse is a little weak. 2 for the people explanation, then. Rena-san was on the curse side of things, right? Yep. Satoko-chan and I believe it was a curse, right? Yeah, I think it was a curse. People who say that Rena-san and Mion-san were evil to begin with are more befitting of a curse. Ugh. Well, I don't want to believe that my own personality was that twisted. But I have to be cool when I'm in club mode. If I base my choice on just emotion, I'll regret it, you know? Or should that be how people are in, like, general? Well, no. Doesn't really matter which side you pick, does it? Huh? Rika-chan hasn't said anything yet. What do you think? I don't think that Oyashiro-sama is a bad god. Huh. That's an interesting opinion. I don't want to worship some bad god that just curses people. I'd like a generous god more than one that curses. That's right, Rika-chan is a shrine maiden. Yep, good opinion. Then what? If Rika-chan doesn't believe that it was Oyashiro-sama, then do you think the perpetrators were human after all? We'll just go with that. Well, now. That means the voters split right down the middle. So half of us think it was a curse, and half of us think it was people. Rena-chan, just for reference, what did the test players who played the beta version think? This conversation is amazing. Yeah. There were a lot more players who believed in the people explanation. CC right there. Our veteran comrades are cool, collected, and very observant. But the beta version only finished partway through the story. That's right. Even the people who played the beta might change their minds if they go through the very end. I love that they're just... This is so, like, meta, dude. I love it. What should we do now? That means that the opinions are still split. It's no fun if we don't settle this. We need there to be an odd number of judges, in other words. We need one more opinion. Ah, perfect timing then. Why don't we ask Keiichi-kun himself? Let's call him. The opinion of the victim himself is very valuable. Since that's decided, it's time for the phone. They're actually calling him. Hello, Keiichi-kun. It's Rena. Are you busy with work right now? Yeah, really busy. Just when I thought I'd get a break because the chapter's over, it's already time for the next one. How's Kei-chan? Busy? Yeah, he's moping. I can hear you, you know. It must be nice having a wrap-up party. I wanted to go too. You can come if you get some character art for yourself. Love it, dude. Rika, that's a secret. Sorry about that, Keiichi-kun. Anyways, during the current chapter, Keiichi-kun, didn't you die? We were just talking about who the culprit might be. Basically, we're deadlocked on whether it was people or Oyashiro-sama's curse that killed you. I'm really sorry, even though you're busy reviewing the script. Keiichi-kun, which do you think it was? That's obvious, isn't it? Which? Isn't it both of them? Targeted by suspicious people from the village and then cursed by some strange Oyashiro-sama on top of that. It's both humans and a curse. Everybody's just picking on me. Poor guy. So very, very pitiful. Next time I'll pat you on the head for you. God. Amazing. In the end, the opinion's still split, huh? I'll think this over again. We might have missed something. Well then, please look forward to the next release, Higurashi When They Cry with Tanagashi, which I have downloaded and ready to go. But I'm gonna try to do that mod where you get like the PS3 graphics for it and everything. Like, just going off of what I'm glad that was like a palate cleanser after the very depressing ending and like dark ending and everything. It was nice. But you know, if this is the first time you're experiencing this story, what do you think is going on? I'd really love to hear somebody who doesn't know, like from the anime or manga or anything. I'd love to hear like what you think is going on so far. So either post in comments below or hell, even message me on Discord or something. I'm really curious. It'll be great to hear about that. But damn, that was a thing. I love all the like comparisons to like some mental health and stuff. Like they talk about PTSD, multiple personality disorder. They talk about a lot of stuff. I'm really hoping. I think that trend will continue because they're always good with like mental health stuff and you know the anime and manga. But I really hope it goes more into depth with that, and I really want to like discuss more of that as it comes up. But wow, thank you so much for sticking through this whole playthrough so far. Hopefully gonna get the next chapter with Tanagashi. Hopefully get that set up soon and get some videos out for that. But I want to test out that mod, see if that works. So yeah, thank you so much. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate it. And yeah, just look forward to more. And thank you for sitting through at this point, probably like a almost 3.5 hour video. So thank you. Bye.